Chapter 182. Throw him out. This is our name scroll. I hope that Butler Sun can help us pass it to Yangshe. If we were to be summoned by Yangshe, us brothers will be extremely grateful for your help. Seemingly seeing through Sun Qiong's fear, Lu Xun smiled faintly. He placed his hands behind his back and displayed a confident smile. Since young, his life had been smooth sailing. Furthermore, with the reputation that he had made for himself in the past few years, a confident demeanor had grown in him. Within the Tianxian kingdom, who would dare to treat Lu Xun with disrespect? In the past, he relied on his father's prestige as the emperor's tutor. But now, he had made a name for himself as the star teacher Lu Xun. All right. Nodding his head, Sun Qiong grabbed the name scroll and walked into the residence. Even though Lu Xun is merely a celebrity teacher now, given experience, it is extremely likely that he would become a master teacher. As a lowly butler, Sun Qiong did not want any involvement in a matter between master teachers. Thus, he decided to leave the matter to the old master. Abusing his authority, acting like he is in charge. Upon seeing the plump man change his attitude after hearing Lu Xun's name, Wang Chao harumphed coldly and a look of disdain appeared on his face the moment Sun Qiong disappeared into the mansion. He had investigated Sun Qiong's background beforehand. He was only the boss of a realtor store and for some reason, he caught Yangshe's sight, causing the massive change in his social standing. Despite reaching Pigu realm only after 40 years of age, being fat like a pig, and possessing no special capabilities whatsoever, he dared to bellow at him. If not for his identity as Yangshe's butler, he would have long taught him a lesson. He's just an insignificant figure. Brother Wang, you need not pay him any heed. Lu Xun chuckled. So it's Lu Xun Laroche and Wang Chao Laroche. I apologize for failing to recognize you two. You both are famous celebrities in the entire kingdom. I've been wanting to pay you a visit, and it is truly a pleasant surprise to meet you here. It is truly my honor to be meeting you too. I might have to impose on you too in the future. Hearing the exchange, those queuing behind them dispelled their anger immediately and acted politely to them. Teachers can be classified into two categories, ordinary teachers and master teachers. Ordinary teachers can be further subdivided into low-level, high-level, and star teachers. On the other hand, master teachers can be differentiated as apprentices, also known as assistant master teacher, and certified master teachers. Lu Xun and Wang Chao belong within the first classification, but they had attained the highest level, therefore gaining the qualification to become a master teacher. As long as they receive the acknowledgement from a master teacher, they would be promoted to become an apprentice master teacher immediately and soar to great heights. Possessing such a status, even though those waiting by the doors are powerful experts with exceptional standing in the kingdom, they did not dare to offend them. Furthermore, they are here to pay a visit to Yangshe. If things go well, they might well become Yangshe's apprentice. Flattering them then would be too late. Upon seeing the attitude of the crowd, Lu Xun and Wang Chao chuckled simultaneously as they clenched their fists in agitation. At this moment, they felt an overwhelming sense of superiority, as though a single word of theirs can change the fate of others, as though they had already become apprentice master teachers. The reason why they had been trying to make a name for themselves at such a young age is precisely because of this. Please do not get angry at that butler. When you both become Yangshe's apprentice, he will never dare to say such words again. A cultivator fawned upon them. Indeed, once you become Yangshe's apprentices, you will be considered his disciples. On the other hand, he is just a butler, a servant. Another person chirped in. You're all being too polite. How can becoming an apprentice master teacher be so simple? Even though Lu Xun's words seemed humble, a confident smile was displayed on his face, as if to say who else but me. But that is to be expected. He is known as the most incredible star teacher in the entire Tianxian kingdom. If a master teacher were to be looking for an apprentice, no one in the entire kingdom would be able to compete against him. Lu Laroche, you're being too humble. I've heard that Liu She has the intention to accept you as his disciple. I've also heard of it. But judging from how even Liu She paid a visit to Yangshe personally, if you can become Yangshe's apprentice, your starting point will be even higher. If you become Yangshe's apprentice, your standing will probably not lose to any other one-star master teacher. When that time comes, we'll be relying on you too. A few more people offered their flatteries. Don't worry. If Yang Shi really accepts me as his apprentice, I won't forget any of you. Lu Xun and Wang Chao chuckled together. They stood proudly before the others as though a lotus rising above the mud, inviolable beings whom others can only look up to respectfully. Jia. At this moment, the entrance opened and Sun Qiong emerged once again. Seeing him reappear, the duo stepped forward immediately. Sorry for the trouble, Butler Sunday. Please lead the way. Wang Chao chuckled haughtily as he proceeded to walk toward the mansion. However, before he could even take a few steps, a plump figure blocked his path. Then, he saw Sun Qiong look at them with a peculiar expression. Could it be that Yang Shi did not allow us to enter? Wang Chao's face darkened. That shouldn't be. They had listed their accomplishments in detail on the name scroll. As well-qualified star teachers, how is it possible that they are rejected? Enter. Who allowed you to enter? You too have two choices. You can either join the queue from the back or scram. Sun Qiong gestured with his hands authoritatively. You. He didn't expect that the other party would continue behaving like that even after the name scroll had been handed over. Lu Xun and Wang Chao were infuriated. Is this Yang Shi's intentions? As a lowly butler, you should know your place to not falsely report your master's word. Lu Xun stepped forward. He had his moment of glory when everyone else thought that Yang Shi would summon them in. If they were to be rejected like this, his reputation would fall into the gutters immediately, and he would find it difficult to lift his head before anyone else in the future. Falsely report? Men, throw these two troublemakers out. Sun Qiong could not be bothered with them and beckoned for the guards. Voila! Several guards appeared from behind the gate, and each armed with a rod, they walked toward Lu Xun and Wang Chao. You! Wang Chao's face was flushed red. Sun Qiong, how dare you? What do you mean by this? Thrusting rods at me? Do you think that we're beggars? We're star teachers, respected figures in the entire Tianqian kingdom. If we were to be driven away by you like that, what will become of our dignity? Why would I dare not to? My old master has already instructed that no matter who it is, if one wants to meet him, he has to queue up and pay 3 million gold coins. Teachers are no exception. Otherwise, if everyone were to visit with just a name scroll in hand, won't the old master be exhausted to death? To think that you are a star teacher, Pui. To dare cut the queue without even paying. Please do not tarnish the reputation of teachers any further. Sun Qiong stared at the two contemptuously. He waved his arm, as though driving away flies, and said, throw them out. He also felt anxious earlier on. But when he handed the name scroll to the old master, the latter only asked a single question. Have they paid yet? Upon hearing that they had not paid the sum, he simply ordered Sun Qiong to handle as per the rule. From this, it can be seen that star teachers do not mean anything to the old master at all. Oh well, even when the 3 master teachers paid their visit, the old master did not hold them in high regard. If so, what would a mere star teacher mean to him? Voila! Upon hearing Sun Qiong's command, the guards stepped forth. The 2 teachers, please. As they said so, strange looks appeared on their faces. I always thought that teachers value their dignity a lot. It turns out that they wish to sneak in just by using name scrolls and avoid the entrance fee. Yang Shi's actions are applaudable. He views everyone as equals, and even teachers are not given special privileges. I am impressed. To have cut queue when they don't have money. They sure are thick-skinned. To think that I wanted to befriend them just now. It is impossible for such low-class people to attract Yang Shi's attention. To think that they wanted to become his apprentices. How hilarious. Not just the guards, the crowd also harumphed coldly. They had paid the exorbitant sum and queued continuously for several days. Even so, they haven't been summoned. On the other hand, the 2 of them, without even paying up, wished to enter the mansion. What a joke. They are asking for a scolding. Observing clearly the contemptuous looks that the crowd shot them, Lu Xun and Wang Chao nearly spurted blood. The strong sense of humiliation caused their heads to feel faint. To avoid an awkward situation, they had intended to pay the 3 million visiting fee in private. Lu Xun had composed the name scroll earnestly with the expectation that even if the other party refuses to meet them, he would at least pay some consideration to their identities and keep quiet about the fee. In contrast, not only did the plump man reveal the matter, he even looked at them scornfully. Tears threatened to stream down Lu Xun and Wang Chao's faces. The heck? This time, they truly lost every shred of their dignity. If there were a hole in the ground, they definitely would have dived in instantly. You! Just as he was about to continue with some small talk to calm down the situation and restore his dignity, Wang Chao felt a grip on his arm. Lu Xun was pulling him away. My apologies, Butler Sunday. We were too rash today. We will be taking our leave. After which, he turned and left. That butler's son is a tough nut to crack. He dares to say anything and everything. If they do not leave but continue bickering with him, not only will they simply get more infuriated, they would also be humiliated further. Those who are able to become star teachers are, by no means, fools. Upon seeing his good buddy turn around to leave, Wang Chao also recognized his concerns. Glaring hatefully at Sun Qiong, he turned around and left as well. Lu Xun, what do we do now? Upon leaving the crowd, they walked into a remote alley. Then, Wang Chao couldn't help but ask. Initially, they thought that submitting their name scrolls would help them impress the other party. As long as they were summoned in, they were confident that, with their knowledge, they would be able to impress Yangshe. However, never in their dreams did they expect that. Not only did the other party reject their entry, his butler even pointed out in public the fact that they didn't pay the entrance fee. The anger and dismay they felt sent them to the verge of insanity. What else can we do? We can only obtain the 3 million entrance fee and then enter with our heads held high. Lu Xun clenched his jaws. Only by meeting Yangshe can they display their abilities to win his favor. Since they can't even meet with the person in question, what is the purpose of arguing with the butler? 3 million? Where can we find such a sum? Wang Chao's face was as bitter as a bitter gourd. You know it as well. My relationship with that old man isn't good. Even if he has the money, he will never give it to me. Besides, how can I break it to him? Lu Xun shook his head. My old man could have taken out such a sum. But a few days ago, he learned an incredible spear art and paid several million as the tuition fee, so our clan is broke now. We might not be able to produce even 100,000 now. Wang Chao smiled bitterly. That father of his had been immersed in that spear art like a fool for the last few days, to the point that he was not even willing to spare time for this son of his. Besides, even if he really has the money, obtaining it from him would be unlikely to happen. Sigh, so what should we do now? The duo was troubled. Lu Xun, if it comes down to it, how about you try asking Emperor Shinzui for a loan? Didn't you grow up in the palace? It shouldn't be hard for you to borrow 3 million from him. Besides, it isn't too late to repay him the sum when you become an apprentice. Suddenly recalling something, Wang Chao proposed. Emperor Shinzui? Lu Xun rubbed between his brows for a moment before replying. All right. Chapter 183, treating Shen Hong. While Lu Xun and Wang Chao were thinking about how they could borrow 3 million to pay Yangshe a visit, the person in question, Zhong Xian, had his eyebrows deeply knitted together. Lu Xun's motive for paying a visit was clear to see. It didn't matter to Zhong Xian whether he met the other party or not, and he didn't instruct Sun Qiong to make things difficult for him either. The both of them are merely embroiled in a teacher evaluation, and there really isn't any grudge to speak of. Thus, there was no need for Zhong Xian to intentionally make things difficult for the other party. Besides, he doesn't have the leisure to be thinking about this at the moment, because a black-clothed man is standing before him. This person had entered through the back gates. Fully dressed in black, even the figure's face was concealed, making it impossible to identify the person. Initially, Zhong Xian thought that the person was here to cause trouble. However, the moment he entered the main hall, he bowed immediately and removed the black cloth concealing his face. Emperor Shinzui, you. Upon making out the other party's appearance, Zhong Xian was taken aback. He had thought that it was a burglar or a bandit. He had never fathomed that it would be Emperor Shinzui, whom he had just met yesterday. As the sovereign of the country, the entire kingdom belongs to him. Yet, Instead of entering openly through the front door, he sneaked into the mansion dressed in black. Acting so secretively, what is he up to? Please pardon my intrusion. I am here to plead with Yang Shi to save the royal elder. Upon noticing his questioning gaze, Emperor Shenzui quickly explained. Save your royal elder? Zhong Xian was perplexed. Sneaking into the mansion dressed in black, it doesn't seem like saving someone but trying to kill someone. Didn't I say that I will help you? Zhong Xian frowned. In return for saving their royal elder, he had already stated his terms yesterday which the other party had agreed to. So, why did the fellow barge in like this? Could it be that this fellow found gathering Tongxian realm secret manuals a difficult task and had chosen to resort to force instead? When this thought flashed through his mind, Zhong Xian was alarmed. To be able to become the sovereign of the country, Emperor Shenzui's fighting prowess has to be extraordinary. At the very least, it is likely that he has reached Tongxian realm pinnacle. Even though his own cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds recently, he nevertheless isn't a match for an expert of that level. However, Zhong Xian dismissed the thought as soon as it appeared. Putting aside the fact that the other party knows that he's a master teacher, he wouldn't dare to do so given that he is, in fact, pleading with him to save his royal elder. If he enters a rage and refuses to help or, instead, makes an intentional mistake during treatment, the royal elder might actually ascend to heaven earlier than expected. I acknowledge that it is inappropriate for me to have visited so abruptly today, and I should have gathered the Tongxian realm secret manuals before inviting Yang Shi over, but who knew that, yesterday, the royal elder's condition worsened all of a sudden. He might not even survive the day. Emperor Shenzui sensed the displeasure in the other party, and he hurriedly bowed down and explained, thus. I took the liberty to barge into Yang Shi's mansion. I hope that Yang Shi can make a trip to treat the royal elder. Might not even survive the day. Even if you want me to treat him, there shouldn't be any need for you to be dressed like this. Zhong Xian was speechless. You are a dignified sovereign, a Tongxian realm pinnacle expert. Even if your royal elder is on the verge of dying, you should need not dress in black and scale walls. It makes it seem that you are here to murder someone. It's fortunate that those guards aren't highly skilled. Otherwise, you could have died for no reason. The royal elder's health is the greatest secret of the entire kingdom, and it is imperative for it to remain confidential. Emperor Shenzui explained. It was because of the royal elder's presence that Tianxian Kingdom had been able to remain in peace for many years. There are already quite a few who know that the old ancestor's health had been deteriorating, and if Emperor Shenzui were to pay an open visit to Yang Shi and the other powers find out, they would be able to guess the real reason. If Yang Shi fails to treat him, their ambitions would definitely be ignited and they may take advantage of this opportunity to strike. At the same time, if Emperor Shenzui were to send someone else here in his stead, it would be disrespectful to Yang Shi. He has no choice but to conceal his appearance and sneak over. As a Tongxian realm pinnacle expert, it wasn't a difficult task for him to hide from sight to creep in here. Having heard the other party's explanation, Zhong Xian came to understand the situation. All right, I'll follow you to take a look. Looks like this emperor has regarded him as the final straw of hope. However, it doesn't matter to Zhong Xian either way. If he were to save that royal elder, the emperor would definitely not dare to delay the matter regarding the Tongxian realm secret manuals. As long as he can obtain 1,000 books on Tongxian realm and create a compilation, his strength would surely soar. There are too many eyes outside. I might have to trouble Yang Shi to leave through the back door with me. Upon hearing him agree to it, Emperor Shenzui's eyes gleamed in delight. But he continued immediately with an apologetic voice. It's no problem. Zhong Xian nodded his head. After calling Sun Qiong and informing him briefly, he secretly left the residence under the lead of Emperor Shenzui. Who? Two figures leaped across the skyline of Tianxian Royal City as though flying birds. If those who had yet to reach Dingli Realm were to look up, even if they were to focus all of their attention, they would only see two shadows flitting by. They are Zhong Xian and Shenzui, who are in a rush to the royal palace. As a Tongxian realm pinnacle expert who possesses remarkable movement techniques, Shenzui's movement was extraordinarily swift. However, when he glanced behind at Yang Shi, who was following him, his confidence shattered immediately. En route, he had utilized over 12 movement techniques, and he had become so tired from running that he was about to collapse out of exhaustion. Yet, Yangsha continued to traverse with ease, without the slightest bit of urgency. His breathing was calm, as though this was a simple feat to him. Even though he was unable to exactly perceive the other party's prowess, from this itself, it was clear that the other party's zhenqi is much more vigorous. Furthermore, the other party's movement technique is far superior. They couldn't even be compared. With such powerful zhenqi and amazing movement technique, it is impossible that the other party is a weakling. It is no wonder the three master teachers were impressed with him. Without a doubt, his strength definitely surpasses Tongxian realm pinnacle. In fact, it isn't impossible for him to be a Zhongsha realm expert. Upon thinking of this, Emperor Shenzui felt even greater respect for Yangsha. While Shenzui became increasingly fearful of the other party, in truth, Zhongxian was feeling extremely dismal at the back. From the very start, this fellow had been dashing ahead with all of his might. If he fails to keep up, his identity might be exposed. Thus, he could only clench his jaws and try his best to stay close. He is only at Pishua realm pinnacle. Even though he has opened up all 108 acupoints and his strength is equivalent to a Tongxian realm intermediate stage cultivator, he is still a far cry from the top experts in the kingdom. It is fortunate that he had managed to learn Heaven's Path movement art a few days ago, allowing him to travel at greater speed. Otherwise, the other party would have disappeared from his sight right from the very start. Even so, there were a few times which he nearly got shaken off. Thus, he made use of the Library of Heaven's Path to look into the flaws of the other party's movement techniques and his habits, predicting his movement in advance and taking a shorter route, thus avoiding the fate of being left behind. It is fortunate that there are many flaws in his movement technique. Otherwise, if the other party really did manage to shake me off, I would have to give up on feigning as an expert. There are likely to be two reasons why the other party is traveling at such great speed. Firstly, the condition of the royal elder in the palace is grave. Secondly, Shenzui wants to test Yangsha's capabilities. If the other party is truly a formidable master teacher, his speed should be exceptional. If the other party fails to catch up with him, even if he doesn't point it out then, he would definitely be doubtful of the person's identity. It is precisely because of this that Zhongxian felt dismal. What is this? The trip to the palace to save a person had suddenly become a race. He had to exert all of his strength just to keep up. If not for his image as an expert, he would have long sent a kick to the other party's face. Is he here to request for my help or to race with me? Furthermore, he had to keep up without displaying the slightest bit of fatigue. If not for the fact that he had broken through recently and that the zhenqi in his body had increased tremendously, he would have given himself away. The heck? It truly is difficult to pass off as an expert. This really isn't something a normal human can achieve. If Sun Qiong were to hear of his thoughts, he would definitely express his utmost agreement. It was precisely because of him trying to do the same that he nearly caused his own death. Until now, he remains traumatized by the event. Since I have already obtained the things that Zhao Ya and the others need, when I finally gather the Tongxian realm secret manuals, I will have this Yangshen disappear. Zhongxian made up his mind. Even though impersonating a master teacher had allowed him to receive enormous respect, it came with its fair share of trouble as well. If he were to be seen through, it would already be considered letting him off easily if he were to be pummeled to death. Now, it appears to be a wise decision to have master teacher Yangshen disappear the instant he receives the Tongxian realm secret manuals. Without any rest, in 10 minutes or so, they reached the royal palace. It seems that proper instructions had been given, and there were no hindrances at any point. Soon, they arrived at a large hall. Right in here. Emperor Shenzui pushed open the door and walked in. Inside the hall, Liu Shi, Zhuangshi, and Zhengsha were present. Creases had formed on their eyebrows as they stared helplessly at the royal elder lying nearby. The stabilizing pillar of Tianxian Kingdom, Shenhong. A few days ago, this white-haired elder was still able to walk independently. But now, he can only lie on the bed and gasp for air. It seems that he may die at any moment. Yangsha. As they entered, Liu Ling and the others immediately stepped forward to welcome Yang Shi. After the previous encounter, they understood that it is likely that Yang Shi is a higher-tier master teacher, and as such, they did not dare to act arrogantly in the slightest before him. I plead of Yang Shi to save the royal elder. Emperor Shenzui turned to look at Zhongxian anxiously. If I can save him, I will do so. Zhongxian replied before walking forward to the elder. The death aura that engulfs Shenhong is much heavier in comparison to that on apothecary Chen Xiao previously. He can only lie still on the bed. If not for his moving eyeballs, one would have thought that he had already passed away. It is no wonder that Emperor Shenzui specially rushed to look for him. Based on Shenhong's current condition, it is hard to say whether he can live past today. Having walked a circle around Shenhong, Zhongxian still couldn't identify the problem. Thus, he could only place his fingers to feel the other party's pulse. UN. The Library of Heaven's path remained reactionless. It wasn't that he had grabbed the wrong hand, but Shenhong isn't in a coma. His eyeballs are still moving, and he is still conscious. It wouldn't be realistic to have him execute a punching routine now. Zhongxian's face darkened. Given that fellow's current condition, it is already a blessing that Shenhong can keep his eyes open. If he were to really push himself to execute a punching routine, he might really die before Zhongxian can do anything. Yang Shi. Is there a method to treat him? Upon seeing him frown, Emperor Shenzui could not help but ask anxiously. This is already his final straw of hope. If Yang Shi is unable to come up with a solution, he can only watch as the royal elder breathes his last. This. Zhongxian scratched his head. He can't possibly mention that he couldn't discern anything about the other party. Having the conscious execute a punching routine and touching the unconscious, he had tried the two methods and successfully compiled books in the library through such. But how can he deal with those in such a semi-conscious state? He can't have him execute a punching routine, and touching him is ineffective. Why don't you pass out for a moment? You are obviously having trouble holding on to your consciousness. What are you doing not passing out? Cough cough. After a moment of hesitation, Zhongxian lifted his head and asked, "This. Is there any object here which can knock him unconscious without killing him?" Chapter 184. Poison Master knock him unconscious without killing him? Emperor Shenzui, Liu Ling, and Zhang Fei stared at one another as question marks popped above their heads. Isn't he here to save the royal elder? Why do you need something to knock him unconscious? Don't people usually infuse zhenqi, feed medicine, or apply acupuncture and such to save others? Does knocking someone out help too? The corner of Zhuangxian's mouth twitched. He felt a tightening sensation at his backside and a constipated sensation overwhelmed him. Even though he had consumed numerous medicine, his face remained swollen. His body was still aching from the beating that he suffered that day. Even though the other party had helped him achieve a breakthrough, and he is genuinely grateful to the other party for that. Aren't his methods way too unorthodox? There are set procedures which typical master teachers follow when helping others to achieve a breakthrough of their current cultivation realm. In fact, it had even a model. Yet, this fellow simply went ahead to blindfold him and beat him up. Even until now, he has yet to recover from the trauma of that incident. Of course, he understood that his condition is unique and thus, it was within reason that he had to resort to such extreme means. However, why does he have to knock the dying Shenhong unconscious to save him? Could it be another inconceivable treatment method? There's a type of powder which can knock one unconscious with just a single whiff. After hesitating for a moment, Emperor Shenzui said, "All kinds of medicine can be found in the royal palace. It isn't difficult to find one that can knock a person unconscious without killing him." "Good, bring it over." Zhongxian's eyes lit up as he instructed. Soon, a eunuch brought a jade bottle over. Opening the jade bottle, he saw that it was filled with white-colored powder. Good. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Zhongxian took the bottle and walked up to Shenhong. Under perplexed gazes, Yang Shi walked up to the royal elder who was gasping for air and said with confidence, "Breathe it in. Come on, breathe it in. Putong." Everyone nearly fainted. They were puzzled over why he required the medicine, but upon hearing his words, they nearly choked to death on their own saliva. When saving someone, one usually feeds tonic and spiritual essence. Yet, you feed him sedatives. Are you sure you aren't here to murder him? While everyone had entered a frenzy, the royal family's royal elder struggled to shake his head, his face full of fear. If not for the fact that he was immobile, he might have leaped up and fled the scene. At the peak of his health, breathing this in would place great stress on his body. Now that he is on the verge of death, if he were to take a whiff, he might just fall dead. Do you think that I am not dying quickly enough? That you want to give me a helping hand? With his heart full of panic, he turned to look at Emperor Shinzui. Weren't you going to invite master teachers over so that I can achieve a breakthrough and extend my longevity? Why is the person you brought trying to get me to breathe in sedatives? What are you doing? This is way too much. Cough cough, Yangsha. The old ancestor's body is extremely frail now. I'm afraid that, if he were to inhale it, his body might be unable to handle it. Upon noticing the doubtful gaze his royal elder shot him, Emperor Shinzui's mouth twitched and he hurried forward to stop him. When he witnessed Yangsha's bizarre methods the day before, he thought that it would be limited to helping others achieve a breakthrough. To think that even his treatment method would be so incredulous. The royal elder had already expended great willpower to hold on in wait of your arrival. If he were to really breathe it in, even if he doesn't die, he wouldn't be too far from it. Unable to handle it. Zhong Xian stopped. The other party's words made sense. The fellow looks as though he would die at any moment. He had been depending on his will to survive. If he were to really fall unconscious and the drive holding him here disappears, he may just die on the spot. So now, I can't knock him unconscious, and neither can I have him execute a battle technique. What should I do? Zhong Xian was at a loss. He thought that by using the Library of Heaven's Path, he would be able to easily see the root of his illness. Even if he couldn't save him, he could discuss it to prove his expertise. But look at the situation, the other party just has to be in such a state, rendering him completely helpless. Then, is there anything that can temporarily boost his vitality, such that he will not die even if he were to be knocked unconscious? After hesitating for a moment, Zhong Xian asked. Since the other party is on the verge of death, using sedative is out of the question. Thus, he can only find a way to temporarily boost the other party's vitality so that he wouldn't die when he is knocked unconscious. Wouldn't die even if he were to be knocked unconscious? The others stared at one another. This Yangsha is truly determined to knock Royal Elder Shenhong unconscious. Liu Shi, is there anything among the master-teacher diagnosis methods that require a person to be knocked unconscious? Zhuangxian secretly sent a telepathic message over. There are many methods for a master-teacher to diagnose a person's condition. Just like how a physician diagnoses a patient, through these methods, a master-teacher can understand the exact condition of the person and point out the very core of his issue. The expert before them has practices simply too bizarre. Even as master-teachers, they are unable to comprehend the logic behind his actions. Usually, the person has to be conscious to be diagnosed. Unconscious. I really have no idea at all. Liu Ling shook his head. He is knowledgeable and had toured many different kingdoms. He had seen people using all kinds of means to wake an unconscious person to diagnose him, but he had never come across knocking a person unconscious to diagnose him. An unconscious person is not much different from a corpse. How can one identify his problem like that? The few master teachers were baffled. Emperor Shinzui was also bewildered. After hesitating for a moment, he said, The royal elder has already consumed all kinds of tonics that might possibly extend his longevity and boost his vitality. Just that these medicines are mostly ineffective now. Shenhong had the backing of the entire kingdom. In order to extend his longevity, he had ingested all kinds of medicine and his body had already developed an immunity to medicinal effects. Even if he were to be fed with more medicine now, it is unlikely that it would be effective. Hearing the other party's words, Zhong Xian felt dismal. Initially, he thought that once the old ancestor is fed with some medicine, he would regain sufficient vitality to execute a battle technique. Yet, this fellow turned out to be a drug junkie, and medicine is ineffective on him. The hell, am I really going to fail this time? I do know of one item that can boost a person's vitality for a short period of time. It works just like the medicine that Empress Shinzui mentioned. After consumption, it grants a weak person temporary strength and spirit. Furthermore, it has minimal side effects. However, Liu Ling had contemplated for some time before speaking. But speaking to this point, he hesitated all of a sudden. But what? Zhong Xian turned to take a look. However, it isn't a tonic but a poison, Liu Ling said. Poison? Zhong Xian was confused. Doesn't poison usually harm others? How would consuming poison boost a person's vitality, and not to mention, cause minimal side effects? Not just him, even Emperor Shinzui was puzzled by his words. He immediately turned to look at Liu Ling with a strange expression. Everyone knows that poison masters are of the lower 9 paths. They often concoct poison to secretly harm others. Their despicable means brought them despise. Even so, given how the profession had been passed down throughout the ages, it shows that there is value to its existence. Zheng Fei said. All professions that are passed down are surely useful in some ways. Even though poison masters possess poor reputation, they aren't entirely scourges of the human society. They are also useful in their own ways. For example, if a person wants to get rid of pest or avoid miasma, they would require the help of such a person. Indeed, I've heard of the substance as well. From what I know, it is concocted using more than a dozen venomous substances in a specific ratio. Just like pill forging, it is incredibly difficult to concoct. The various ingredients would need to be mixed in a specific manner in a specific ratio such that they would complement one another and form a perfect balance. In that case, not only would it not be detrimental to one's health, it can even stimulate a person's latent potential and induce the recovery of their vitality for a short period of time. Zhuangxian seemed to have thought of it as well, and he nodded his head in agreement. After which, he turned over to look at Yang Shi with a confused expression. Even though Poison Master is an extremely remote profession, this item is extremely common in first-tier kingdoms. Yang Shi. You don't know about it. Not just him, even Liu Ling and Zheng Fei were extremely puzzled. A master teacher has to be knowledgeable about the occupations of the upper, middle, and lower 9 paths, as well as their skills. During the examination to become a 1-star master teacher, one has to answer questions on the topic in detail. As such, there isn't a single master teacher who doesn't know of this. The person before them is able to offer them pointers, revealing that he is obviously an extremely high-tier master teacher. Yet, how can he be ignorant of poison masters and the medicine they concoct? In fact, it seemed as if it is his first time hearing of it. I don't like poison masters as an occupation, so I didn't study much of it. Looking at the doubtful gazes the others were shooting him, Zhong Xian felt slightly awkward. Possessing the Library of Heaven's Path, it is no problem for him to offer pointers. However, when it comes to common knowledge, it is easy for Zhong Xian to give himself away. As a master teacher, one must have an incredible discerning ability to identify the root of a problem. In order for one to possess such perceptive eyes, one has to have a wide range of knowledge. Without having a wide range of knowledge as a foundation, how can a master teacher recognize the crux of a problem in a single look and offer guidance? And what Zhong Xian lacks is this accumulation of knowledge. He is able to hoodwink people through the use of the library, but his ignorance shows through readily when met with this kind of general knowledge questions. You don't like it? Didn't study much of it? The frown on Liu Ling and the others' faces deepened. As long as one had been to a first-tier kingdom, even the deaf and blind would be aware, needless to say, a high-tiered master teacher. Besides, a master teacher should be open to everything. They had never heard of one refusing to study a subject just because he hated the occupation. Those are obviously words of an outsider. If not for the fact that the other party had offered them pointers, and had showcased his incomparably vast knowledge in the field of cultivation, they would have suspected that he is an imposter. Do any of you have the medicine? Judging from the faces of the crowd, Zhong Xian realized that he must have mentioned something inappropriate. Fortunately, he was born thick-skinned and this allowed him to remain composed. He changed the topic immediately. This medicine has to be concocted by a poison master on the spot as it cannot be stored. Otherwise, Changes would occur within the medicine, resulting in the balance between the various venomous substance to be destroyed, causing it to become a deadly poison. How can we possibly have such a thing? Liu Ling nodded his head. The doubt in his eyes deepened. This Yang Shi is way too amateur. It is impossible for a master teacher to ask such a question. The same thought also sprouted in Zhuangxian and Zheng Fei's minds. In that instant, they once again began to doubt Yang Shi's identity as a master teacher. Is that so? Knowing that the other party was already suspicious, Zhongxian knew that he shouldn't linger further on the topic. He immediately turned to Emperor Shenzui and said, "Since that's the case, then I would have to bother your majesty to find a poison master to concoct it." At this, he paused for a moment. Then, ignoring the gazes that the others cast, he spoke with a majesty unique to master teachers. "I need this medicine to save your royal elder." This time, it wasn't just the three master teachers, even Emperor Shenzui was perplexed by Zhongxian's demand. Our Tianxian kingdom is a remote country which doesn't even rank into the tiers. As such, we do not have any poison masters in our lands. Yang Shi, it can't be that you are not aware of it. You don't have poison masters here? Gudding, Zhongxian's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 185. I'll learn for a bit. He didn't think that after feigning as a master teacher for so long, such that everyone had already believed him to be real, that he would stumble on the lack of trivial knowledge. If he knew that there aren't any poison masters in Tianxian Kingdom, he would have never said such word. Even though there are books on poison in the kingdom's book collection vault, they are more for record purposes. They are fundamental books on the uses of poisons, just like the elementary books in the Apothecary Guild's basic tier book collection vault. Advanced concepts for poison masters are not covered. Thus, Zhongxian was ignorant of such facts. It is no wonder that Liu Ling and the others are growing doubtful of him. He doesn't even possess basic knowledge that even commoners are aware of. Even though he felt dismal at giving himself away, Zhongxian knows that the dice has been cast, and it is too late to regret now. If he were to say that he can't treat the old ancestor, the others would definitely think that he's an impersonation. Probably, before Emperor Shenzui can make a move himself, the master teachers would have already made mincemeat out of him. Even so, Zhongxian did not panic. He lifted his head slightly and a faraway look appeared in his eyes. It seemed as though he was reminiscing the past, and that many different memories and emotions, be it sweet or bitter, had been dredged up. I have neglected this fact. I thought that I am where I had stayed a few years ago. From an outsider's perspective, one would think that he had truly forgotten that he is in Tianxian Kingdom, and he had truly misspoken. Upon seeing his expression, question marks appeared above Liu Ling and the others. Since there were poison masters in his previous place of dwelling, it means that the kingdom he had resided in is, at the minimum, first tier. However, they had been to nearby first-tier kingdoms, but have never heard of the name Yangxian. Do you know how to concoct this medicine? If so, it would be best if you can make one now. I require it urgently to save a life. Seeing that he had managed to divert their attention, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. Facing Shen Hong, who is a single foot into his grave, he truly is stumped. He can only find a way to induce a temporary recovery of the other party and have him execute a battle technique. Otherwise, if things were to drag on, he might just die before a remedy can be found. Make one now? Liu Ling shook his head. Seems like Yang Shi really doesn't know much about poison masters. Honestly speaking, the formula for the medicine is simple. It contains only 10 types of venoms, and I can recite them by heart. However, to achieve a balance among the 10 venoms such that there isn't any side effect and heighten a person's vitality, one has to be an extremely skilled poison master. Thus, it is useless even though I know the recipe. Concocting poison is similar to how an apothecary forges a pill. Regardless of skill or the amount of herb used, the slightest mistake can result in a vast difference from the intended effects. This is precisely the reason why, even though the reputation of poison masters are terrible, they remain a highly feared existence. In fact, there are many powers who specially hire them to deal with matters which are not convenient for them to directly interfere in. You can't concoct it even though you know the recipe? Zhongxian glanced at him. How about this? You write down the formula first so that we can bring the ingredients required for the concoction. Since Yang Shi insists, I will follow your wishes. Liu Ling said no more. After getting someone to bring paper and brush, he quickly wrote down the ingredients. Zhong Xian glanced at the recipe. Monothorn grass, demise flower, venomous extract from a white bamboo snake, blood from a black toad. There are 10 ingredients in total, and each of them is extremely venomous. Any single one of them is more than sufficient to poison a Tongxian realm expert to death in an instant. However, when the 10 of them are mixed together in a unique ratio, it can become an incredible tonic. The methods of a poison master are indeed incredible. Even if an ingredient on the list isn't present in the royal palace, it wasn't too difficult to search for it. Not too long later, all of the required ingredients were placed before Zhong Xian. Every single ingredient was deeply colored and the sight induced fear. What is the use of having found these ingredients? Without a poison master to concoct the mixture, they are just venomous substances that are useless in saving lives. Doubtful, Zheng Fei commented. Finding these ingredients had squandered them quite a bit of time. Shen Hong, at this moment, is on the verge of collapsing. Yang Shi was invited over to see if he can help Shen Hong achieve a breakthrough to extend his longevity, so why is he bothering about such matters? Isn't it a waste of time? Indeed, Shen Hong's condition is indeed troublesome. We should be putting our heads to think of a solution instead. Even though recovering Shen Hong's vitality might help, we don't have anyone capable of concocting the medicine now. Even Zhuangxian could not stand watching on. He is indebted in Yang Shi and shouldn't have doubted the other party's intention. However, from his perspective, what the other party was doing seemed to be meaningless. The most urgent matter at hand is to help Shen Hong achieve a breakthrough, not to bother about this. You already said it, the medicine is useful. If so, we just have to concoct it. In any case, we know what ingredients are required, so it doesn't matter if we have a poison master here. Even without a poison master here, we will save him. Interrupting the other person's words, Zhong Xian smiled. But we don't understand the nature of these venoms. Zhuangxian panicked. If a mistake occurs, the subject will be poisoned to death immediately. If that happens, it will be impossible to make amends. Alright, if we don't know, we can learn. If we can't concoct it, we can give it a try. There's no need to make such a big fuss. Zhong Xian waved his hands nonchalantly. Learn. Try. Emperor Shen Zui, Liu Ling, and the others staggered simultaneously. They nearly fainted on the spot. Brother, you don't even know who a poison master is. How in the world are you going to learn about poison? Such last-minute mugging. There has to be a better solution. Every single occupation requires one to receive guidance from a teacher. Only after several years of dedicated research and learning can one have accomplishments in the field. Yet, you speak of learning it now? Learn your head. Don't joke around. Even though the poison master is a lower 9 paths occupation, it doesn't mean that it is easy to comprehend. Rather, it was due to its poor reputation that it fell from prestige. In fact, the difficulty of becoming a poison master is in no way easier than that of becoming an apothecary. After all, one needs to have an in-depth knowledge of the property of the various poisons. Otherwise, one wouldn't be concocting medicine but committing suicide. Thus, every single poison master has to go through countless years of effort before finally becoming certified. Yet, you say that you want to learn now. By the time you are done, Shen Hong's flesh would have withered. By then, there's no one here for you to save. The others felt the world spinning around them. On the other hand, Shen Hong, who was lying on the bed, was on the verge of tears. The heck, how did I offend you? I just want to live for a few more years to protect Tianxian Kingdom. First, you want to knock me out. Now, you want to poison me to death. At most, I'll just die right now, so spare me, will you? I beg of you, stop torturing me. Yang Shi, tinkering with poison isn't child's play. It's best not to toy around with them. Liu Ling could no longer hold himself back and immediately tried to persuade Yang Shi otherwise. If you don't have a solution for Shen Hong's problem, at most, you can just admit that you are helpless. What are you trying by playing with sedatives and poison? Do you think that poison can be concocted that easily? If it were that easy, poison masters wouldn't be such a feared existences. I know that it isn't child's play, so give me a moment. I'll study for a bit first. Zhongxian nodded his head seriously. Study for a bit first. Your head. The three master teachers nearly fainted. Fine, we'll see how you study then. Liu Ling flung his robe furiously. Initially, he thought that given Yang Shi is a knowledgeable person. Even though his means are inconceivable, his ability to perceive the crux of the problem is astonishing. But now, it seems that he is merely an extremely random person, such that he is even trying to learn about concocting poison now. The heck? If you are that incredible, why don't you ascend to the heavens? I have seen numerous master teachers, and have even met a 3-star. However, I've never heard of anyone being able to grasp an occupation from scratch in a short period of time. Just like Liu Shi, even though Zheng Fei did not say anything, his complexion was awful. Clearly, he was dissatisfied with Zhongxian's actions. Who are poison masters? Even among the 9 paths, it is an extremely famous occupation. If one can become one that easily, it would be worthless. Yuan. Didn't he say that he is going to learn about poison now? What is he trying to do? The 3 master teachers were furious. By the side, Emperor Shenzui also glanced at Yang Shi speechlessly. However, when he shot his gaze over, he was immediately confounded by the sight before him. Didn't Yang Shi say that he is going to learn about poison? Then why is he standing rooted to the spot with his eyes closed? Brother, if you truly want to learn about poison, you should find a few books and flip through them. Or at the very least, you should at least ask about it. What do you hope to achieve by standing there with your eyes closed? Please at least show some respect for poison masters. What in the world are you up to? Liu Shi, look. Zhuangxian also noticed the strange situation and he muttered. Sleeping? This. Liu Ling and Zheng Fei stared at one another and blinked their eyes. At this moment, they were just a push away from ripping their hair out. Yang Shi, can you tell us what you're up to? Didn't you say that you want to learn how to concoct poison? Standing motionless on the spot, not even sparing a glance at the venomous substances on the table. More importantly, your eyes are shut. Hell, what are you up to? I've seen eccentric people, but I've never seen such an eccentric one. The 3 master teachers felt that their heads were about to explode from frustration. Chapter 186. Concocting poison. Of course, Zhongxian wasn't merely putting on a show. He had flipped through several thousand books regarding poison in the kingdom's book collection vault. Even though they are all elementary and insufficient for one to become an official poison master, even if one read through all of them, it is sufficient for him at the current moment. His current motive isn't to become a poison master. He just wants to look for a way to achieve a perfect balance among these 10 ingredients to create a safe medicinal solution and restore Shenhong's vitality. He doesn't have to become as skilled as a poison master to concoct the remedy. It is just like how becoming an official apothecary is troublesome, but an apprentice can still easily concoct medicinal paste. Hualala. With a jolt of his mind, he flipped through all of the books he had read in the kingdom's book collection vault regarding poison. Correct. Focusing all of his attention, the correct portions of the books soon formed a complete manual before him. Zhongxian gently flipped it open. Poison can kill, but it can save lives as well. If one masters the art of poison, it might even be possible for one to bring back the dead. The book was filled with words. Zhongxian knew that that was the correct content extracted from the other books by the Library of Heaven's Path. He started reading without hesitation. With a single glance, Zhongxian was impressed. It is just like Liu Ling and the others had said. This occupation is vast and profound, it isn't something one can comprehend in mere days. However, with the Library of Heaven's Path compiling an absolutely correct manual, Zhongxian would be able to arrive at the very core of every single principle. As such, he is able to learn swiftly. Flipping through the various books in his head, his understanding of poison master as an occupation, as well as the nature of poisons, gradually deepened. Unknowingly, he reached the final page. Zhongxian felt a shudder going through his entire body. He immediately assimilated all of the knowledge he had just learned for himself, and it formed a part of his working memory. Even though he didn't become a poison master, as he had expected, his understanding toward venomous substances had deepened significantly. What is this? Having gained a deep understanding of poisons, Zhongxian suddenly noticed a faint black aura hidden in the depths of his body. When did I sustain this? In the past, due to his ignorance, even if he had noticed, he wouldn't have thought much of it. However, now that he had learned the basics, he recognized it to be poison. Just that, he couldn't recall when he was afflicted with it. Furthermore, if it had been lingering in his body all along, why is he still fine? Royal Elder. Royal Elder. Just as Zhongxian wanted to look deeper to see what it is and whether it would have any adverse effect on him, Emperor Shenzui's panicked exclamations sounded by his ear. Realizing that this isn't the right time to do so, Zhongxian opened his eyes and glanced forward. He saw old ancestor Shenhong, who had been struggling to gasp for air, on the verge of closing his eyes. It seems that he may die at any moment now. Using the analogy of an oil lamp, if the flame was weak before, the wind is now blowing and the flame might be extinguished at this very moment. Even if Shenhong tries his best to persevere, it is unlikely that he will be able to survive more than a few minutes. Death ultimately comes to all. Emperor Shenzui, please do not grieve too much. Please pardon our helplessness. Liu Ling and the rest recognized Shenhong's worsening state and shook their heads in unity. At present, he is no different from a corpse. As one-star master teachers, they do not have any solutions. Even if they do manage to think of one now, it would be too late to help. Indignance reflected in Emperor Shenzui's eyes. He had spent a great sum to invite the three master teachers, only to be told that they are powerless on the matter. Just as he decided that there isn't any hope, Yangsha suddenly appeared. He had thought of him as his final straw of hope, but in the end it turns out that he is even more unreliable than the three. It is one thing for him to not save him, but at such a crucial period, he tries to tinker with sedatives and poisons. I invited you to save him, not to experiment with him. The more he thought about it, the more furious he became. He turned to look at the motionless fellow to see what he had to say about the matter, only to see that his eyes had opened. Yangsha, my old ancestor is unable to hold on any longer. If you don't save him now, it'll be too late. Emperor Shenzui suppressed the anger he felt and spat through gritted teeth. I'll first concoct the medicine, Zhongxian said. With a single glance, even he could tell that if he doesn't come up with anything soon, Shenhong will most probably die within 10 minutes. The only thing he can do now is to concoct the medicine and hope that it is of use. Concoct the medicine. After hearing those words, Emperor Shenhong can no longer hold back his anger. Yangsha, my old ancestor's life is hanging by the thread. I didn't invite you over to experiment concocting the medicine of a poison master. Oh! Zhongxian turned to look at him. You mean that? Yangsha, if you have other solutions, please do so. If you are able to treat my old ancestor, the Tianqian kingdom is willing to offer anything to you. Emperor Shenzui said. Aren't I doing so now? When the medicine is done, feed it to your old ancestor. After he regains some of his vitality, I will find a solution for his problem. Ignoring the other party's rage, Zhongxian replied impassively. After hearing those words, Emperor Shenzui nearly spurted a mouthful of blood. Didn't you hear what I said? The meaning behind my words should be clear. Since you don't possess the skills of a poison master, don't try to concoct medicine out of poisons. You should try to think of a way to save the person instead. In the end, my words fell on deaf ears. Actually, what that he didn't know was that Zhongxian had no better alternatives at that moment. In his present state, Shenhong will die at any moment even if Zhongxian does nothing at all. Even though if he tries to do something, Shenhong might still die. The best solution at the moment is to concoct the medicine and have him recover some vitality so that the library can compile a book on him. Other than this, Zhongxian has no better solution. Seeing that the fellow was still persisting on concocting his medicine, the three master teachers were infuriated. Emperor Shenzui, allow Yangsha to concoct the medicine. Suppressing his displeasure, Liu Ling flung his robe. If not for a fear of the other party's fighting prowess, he would have long made a move on him. You don't even know who poison masters are, yet you intend to concoct a medicine out of poison. Do you think that poison masters are a joke? Arrogant. It is truly a wonder how you became a master teacher. Or perhaps, you aren't a master teacher at all. You just happened to be lucky when helping Zhuangxian to achieve a breakthrough in his realm. Zhongxian could sense the displeasure in the other party's voice, but he couldn't be bothered with it at the moment. Shenhong was about to die, and he had no time to waste. Walking over to the venomous ingredients, he poured one of the liquids into an empty bottle. Playing a fool. Even though Liu Ling isn't a poison master, he had seen them concoct poison and thus, he knew of the typical sequences and methods. Even a tenth or 100th of these venomous substances, when consumed by accident, will cause one to die on the spot. They are all fearsome substances. That is the reason why one requires specialized equipment when concocting to ensure a precise quantity. Yet, without using any equipment at all, you simply pour the substances from bottle to bottle. Aren't you being too casual? Do you know how much of the substance you have poured from the bottles? Do you know the correct ratio between the various ingredients? Just a single droplet of error can cause a person's death. That's also the reason why poison masters are exceptionally cautious whenever they concoct, fearing that there might be the slightest bit of error. Yet, you dare to pour these poisons around randomly. The heck? If one were to try becoming a poison master with such an attitude, before succeeding, he would have long poisoned himself to death. Do you regard that as having learned the subject? Even a craftsman found off the streets would be much more precise than you. When a poison master concocts a formula, he needs to allow the first two ingredients to react before putting the third in, just like how an apothecary's pill forging worked. There are specific sequences and timings to place the substances in. Even the slightest error will not be tolerated. Yet, to be pouring those poison around casually. Zheng Fei commented angrily. You insist on concocting that poison of yours instead of saving Shenhong, fine, we'll tolerate it. However, there is an intricate and profound relationship between the various poisons. One has to mediate between the various changes in the poisons and to do so, he has to follow a specific sequence and timing. Yet, you are randomly filling the bottle as though pouring wine. It is impossible for you to have concocted anything good this way. Just by coming into contact with a single drop, Shenhong will probably die on the spot, not to mention, drink it. Ignoring the commotion between the master teachers, Zhongxian focused all of his attention into concocting the medicine and his movements were fast. Don't you see that he is already dying? If he were to do it as the master teachers had said, using measurement equipment and waiting for the poison to react with one another, the other party would have already died by the time he is done. Of course, he wasn't mixing the poisons together randomly as the other party had perceived him to be doing. The book in the library in his mind was continuously refreshed as he poured the different liquids together. If the flaws were to decrease along with his movements, that meant that his actions must be correct. In less than 10 breaths, the 10 types of venomous ingredients had been mixed together. Touching the jade bottle, the content in the book was refreshed once again. 10 venom medicinal solution, concocted by Zhongxian. Upon consumption, one regains vitality and reverts to their healthy state for an incense's time. Flaws, 12 aspects. Number 1, the consumer doesn't regain his cultivation. Number 2, the duration of the recovery is too short. The name and effects of the liquid Zhongxian just concocted was written on the cover of the book. I've succeeded. Zhongxian's eyes lit up. Even though he had been using the library to observe the state of the poison constantly, if not for the 1,000 books he had studied prior to that, which provided him with basic knowledge of the properties of the various poisons, he would have been at a loss to how he should react to the flaws that appeared within the book. If he were to have truly added the various venoms together randomly, even if he had half a month, he wouldn't have been able to concoct the medicinal solution. Upon successfully completing the concoction, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. I've succeeded. Picking the jade bottle up, he looked at the crowd. You've succeeded. Everyone's lips twitched. After pouring the liquids together randomly, you say that you've succeeded. In your own opinion, that is, quick, feed it to him. Ignoring the bizarre gazes everyone else shot him, Zhongxian handed the concoction to Emperor Shenzui hurriedly. Feed it to him? Emperor Shenzui shook his head. It's not certain whether the concoction is toxic or not. There's no time. Hurry up and feed it to him, otherwise, he will really die. Knowing that the other party wouldn't believe him even if he were to explain, Zhongxian frowned. But Emperor Shenzui was hesitant. Why? You don't believe that this medicinal fluid can help him regain his vitality? Zhongxian asked. Even though Zhongxian didn't appear to be angry, there was some kind of mystical strength to his words that gave it authority. After having feigned as a master teacher for numerous days, his actions and words had started to exude an aura of superiority. Emperor Shenzui did not know how he should reply to his words. It's not that he had doubts, but that he didn't even trust him. I saw you mixing the 10 poisons together randomly with my own eyes. Yet, you ask me to believe you. You must be joking. Besides, how can I feed the royal elder with this unverified solution? What if he dies immediately after I feed him that? If you don't believe me, then let's forget it. I've already given you the chance, and the choice is up to you. Seeing the other party hesitating, Zhongxian chose not to speak excessively. He placed the medicinal solution he concocted on the table, his face carrying an impassive expression. However, you should consider the matter properly. Your royal elder will not survive for more than 3 minutes if you can't think of any other solutions. 3 minutes of his life for an opportunity to extend his longevity. The choice is up to you. This. Emperor Shenzui clenched his fist tightly. Chapter 187. Tons of nonsense. He doesn't even have the slightest bit of confidence in the medicinal solution that Yangsha concocted. However, it is just like the other party had said. If they can't find any other solution, this royal elder of his will not survive past 3 minutes. Since he is going to die anyway, might as well give it a try. In any case, this Yangsha had managed to treat Ling Tianyu's wife, Du Miaoshuan, and the others. Even though his means and actions so far appear unreliable and incomprehensible, this is the best chance he has. After 10 breaths, he gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I'll give it a try. There is no choice but to give it a shot. There isn't a better solution." After making his decision, Emperor Shenzui clenched his jaws, grabbed the jade bottle from the table, and approached the royal elder. "Royal elder, pardon me for my impudence." After using a spoon to pry open his mouth, he poured the medicinal solution in. Woo! Even though royal elder Shen Hong was on the verge of dying, he was still conscious. Having the medicinal solution forcefully poured into his mouth, he nearly cried. He had seen everything that had happened with his own eyes. Yangsha's actions had sent chills down his spine. He is the royal elder of Tianxian Kingdom, an expert who is even more respected than the king himself. Yet, to be feeding him a medicine that can potentially be toxic without first testing it. It is as though they are treating him as a pill sample beast. Furthermore, it is the kind of experiment where he will die immediately if there is the tiniest bit of error. Why is my life so tough? All I want is to live peacefully and die peacefully. Is that hard to achieve? Very quickly, Emperor Shenzui completed the task of forcing the entire bottle of solution into royal elder Shen Hong's mouth. Cough cough cough. Shen Hong's eyes flipped and after a few moments of struggle, he stopped moving. Royal elder. Emperor Shenzui's face paled. He staggered backward and roared in agony. Is it a failure? Not only is the royal elder the stabilizing pillar of Tianxian Kingdom, he is also a close blood-related kin to Shenzui. Even though he addresses Shen Hong as his royal elder, he is actually the emperor from 2 generations ago, Shenzui's own grandfather. For his own grandfather to have died before him, not to mention, being the one responsible for the fatal act of having fed him the medicine, the agony he felt was indescribable. If the medicine can indeed be concocted that easily, then poison masters would be worthless. Liu Ling shook his head. Turning to Zhongxian, he said, Yangshe, even though Shen Hong would have died even if he didn't consume the medicine, it is a fact that he died from taking your medicine. So, it isn't wrong to say that you killed him. Killed him? That's right. You were the one who concocted the medicine, and it was under your orders that the medicine was fed to him. Now that he has died, who else can the responsibility belong to other than your? Liu Ling stared at him with piercing eyes. Yangshe, weren't you confident in your medicine? Emperor Shenzui questioned angrily. It was under your orders that I fed your medicine to my royal elder. Now, look at what has happened. My responsibility? Indeed. Shun Hong is the stabilizing pillar of Tianqian Kingdom, and now that he has died from your medicine, you should make up for it by taking on his role. Actually, he also knew clearly that Shun Hong would have died regardless of whether the medicine was fed to him. The reason why he intentionally said such words was for this. Shun Hong's greatest purpose in the kingdom was to deter aggressors and revolutionaries. If Yangshe were to agree to take his place, his presence would definitely provide a much greater deterrence than Shun Hong. In fact, Tianqian Kingdom might become a second-tier kingdom or even a first-tier kingdom due to his presence taking on his role. Zhong Xian shook his head. No way. He intends to destroy the identity once he receives the Tongxian realm secret manuals from Emperor Shenzui. To serve as the stabilizing pillar? What a joke. Impossible. Does Yangshe not feel the slightest bit of regret in failing to save Shun Hong and instead, causing his death? Liu Yang raised his eyebrows. Causing his death? You're imagining things. Zhong Xian chuckled. Rest easy, how can he die that easily in my presence? After which, he walked over to the motionless royal elder Shun Hong and sent a slap to his face. Pa. The slap was resounding. Cough cough cough. After which, the sound of coughs echoed in the room. Shun Hong, who had become motionless moments earlier, spat out a mouthful of medicinal solution and opened his eyes slowly. This. Everyone was stupefied. Liu Ling, Zheng Fei, and the others, who were about to reprimand Yangshe for his disrespectful actions, nearly had their eyes drop to the ground. They thought that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Royal Elder, you. Emperor Shenzui walked forward with an incredulous expression. He did not understand what was happening before him. You unfilial fellow, do you wish to choke me to death? Cough cough. Shun Hong's furious words echoed in the entire room. At this moment, he doesn't look as though a person who was on the verge of death. Yangshe, what's going on? Emperor Shenzui hurriedly looked over. He had clearly seen the royal elder fall motionless. Why did he suddenly wake up and is even able to speak? What is going on? He wasn't the only one who found the entire situation unbelievable. Liu Ling, Zhuangxian, and Zheng Fei felt the knowledge and experience that they had accumulated over the years were crumbling apart. The dead coming back to life. This can't be real. Shun Hong's body was weak and he was on the verge of death. I asked you to feed him the medicine, yet you simply forced all of it down his throat. The sticky medicinal solution blocked his breathing airways, therefore sending him into a death-like state. As for why he was able to suddenly wake up, the reason is simple. The medicinal solution that I had concocted is effective, Zhong Xian said impassively. Even though the situation seems baffling, it is actually quite simple. The 10-venom medicinal solution which he had concocted had been checked by the library, so naturally, there couldn't be any problem with its effectiveness. Even though Shun Hong was on the verge of death, upon consumption, the concoction took effect immediately and granted him temporary vitality. Even though feeding him a mouthful would have sufficed, Emperor Shenzui forced the entire bottle of it in. With so much medicinal solution clogging up his airways, it is already a blessing that he didn't choke to death. It was precisely because Zhong Xian saw through it that he slapped his face, utilizing the impact to open up his clogged airways, allowing him to regain consciousness. This. Emperor Shenzui and the 3 master teachers were astonished after hearing the explanation. A medicine that was concocted randomly is actually effective? Other poison masters prepare all kinds of measuring instruments for their concoction process, fearful that they might add a single droplet more. Yet, this fellow, just by pouring the fluids around randomly, he actually managed to succeed. Heavens, surely you are jesting with me. Of course, that wasn't the most shocking. Just a moment ago, Yangshe clearly didn't even know what kind of medicine this is. Yet, in the next instant, he concocted it as though a veteran poison master. Heavens above, can anyone tell me what is going on? Could it be really as he said, that he learned it on the spot? And just by closing his eyes, he learned all of that on the spot. Furthermore, he learned poison concoction, which is reputed to be as difficult as pill forging. The four of them felt as though they were dreaming. Thank you, Yangshe, for saving my life. Before they could recover from their shock, Royal Elder Shenhong climbed down from his bed and clasped his hands. Regardless of how close to death one is, upon consuming the 10 venom medicinal solution, one can regain their vitality and return to a pink state of health temporarily. Even though Shenhong didn't regain his cultivation, it wasn't a difficult task for him to walk around. There's no need for these formalities. Execute a battle technique for me now. Zhongxian couldn't be bothered to waste the limited time he had and hurriedly instructed Shenhong to display a battle technique to him. That was the motive for concocting the medicine in the first place. Since the other party is sufficiently healthy to stand up, then it would be best for him to hurry. Execute a battle technique? My body is weak now and I can't propel the slightest bit of zhenqi. Even if I were to execute one now, it won't make any difference. I think it'll be best for me not to embarrass myself. Shenhong shook his head. After experiencing death, I have already thought it through. If the kingdom survives without me, it would be for the best. But if it falls in the end, one can only say that it is the workings of fate. There's no need to be so adamant about it. Zhongxian, I only asked you execute a battle technique so that I can compile a book on you in the library to tell your physical condition. Why are you suddenly rambling nonsense? Getting so philosophical all of the sudden. It's good that Brother Shenhong is able to see through all these after experiencing death. Riches actually don't mean anything at all, one's cultivation is the most important. Even though it's good to possess authority, it seemed like it had impeded your growth. Otherwise, given your talent, you would have long reached Zhongsha realm. Before Zhongxian could even speak, Liu Ling nodded his head in satisfaction. His admiration for Shenhong reflected in his eyes. Indeed. It's a pity that I have comprehended this fact way too late. Royal Elder Shenhong sighed. Then, he turned to Zhongxian and said, even so, I would like to thank Yangshe for your help. You've given additional time, and even though I didn't recover my cultivation, I am still delighted. Just as Royal Elder Shenhong was just about to go on, he saw Yangshe's face gradually turning dark. Then, the latter sent a slap toward him. Pa. It accurately hit the back of his head. Pada. Before he could finish his words, Royal Elder Shenhong's vision went dark, and he collapsed onto the floor, unconscious. I only asked you to execute a battle technique. You sure have tons of nonsense to speak. Dusting his hands, Zhongxian harumphed the moment he turned around. He saw Emperor Shenzui and the 3 master teachers staring at him in shock. Chapter 188 The Eccentric Method to Treat Shenzui 1. It was no wonder that Zhongxian became angry. Given the very limited period of an incense's time the 10 venom medicinal solution granted him, that fellow refused to execute a battle technique and chose to ramble on about his comprehension of life instead. Comprehend your head. If you don't allow me to trace the root of your problem using the Library of Heaven's Path, you might be released after an incense's time, but I will be forced to guard the kingdom for you. Besides, my reputation would be ruined. If my reputation were to be ruined by you, how can I make money in the future? Thus, upon seeing the other party refusing to execute a battle technique, Zhongxian could no longer restrain himself and slapped the other party unconscious. In any case, he had already consumed the medicine, so he wouldn't die even if he were to go unconscious. And to Zhongxian, slapping him unconscious and having him execute a battle technique meant the same thing. While Zhongxian had slapped him merrily, Shenzui and the other 3 master teachers went into a frenzy. Didn't you just help him regain consciousness? Why did you slap him unconscious all of the sudden? Is there really a method of diagnosing that requires one to be unconscious? Yangshe. Just as Emperor Shenzui was about to question his action, Yangshe swung his arms and said, "All right, we don't have much time. Let's get down to business." Ignoring their shocked faces, he squatted down to feel Shenhong's pulse. Wang. His mind jolted and a book finally appeared in the library. On the cover were the words Shenhong. He flipped it open gently. Shenhong, the grandfather of Tianxian Kingdom's emperor, Shenzui, a half-Zongsha expert. Shun Hong's life and his bodily flaws were written on it. Yangsha, is there hope for the royal elder? As he had heard from Ling Tianyu about Yangsha's method to diagnose one's condition by feeling his pulse, he wasn't too surprised by the action. But upon seeing Yangsha frown, Emperor Shenzui couldn't help but walk over. Even Liu Ling, Zhuangxian, and the others were filled with anxiety. This Shun Hong had reached the limit of his lifespan. They were unable to come up with any treatment, and even less so, induce a breakthrough in him. Thus, they were interested in listening to Yangsha's opinion. Wake him up first. Zhongxian gestured grandly. After having felt the other party's pulse, he was no longer as anxious and uptight as before. Yes. Emperor Shenzui placed his finger on the royal elder's philtrum and infused Zhenqi into his body. Slowly, Shun Hong regained his consciousness. TL, philtrum area above the lips, below the nose, Yangsha. Upon awakening from his sleep, Shun Hong stared at Zhongxian. Just as he was about to ask the latter why he had knocked him unconscious, the other party's voice resounded. Shun Hong, I'll give you two choices. You can achieve a breakthrough to the Zongsha realm and continue living. Otherwise, just as you said, if you don't mind dying, I can't be bothered to save you as well. He had to first ascertain the other party's will to live. If he wasn't willing, no matter how incredible Zhongxian could be, he would be unable to save him. I can live on. Reach Zongsha realm? Initially, he was displeased with Zhongxian's action of knocking him unconscious. However, upon hearing his words, Shun Hong's body trembled in agitation. He knows how difficult it is for one to reach Zongsha realm. He had tried his entire life, only to fail time and time again. Now, at the verge of death, and with no more latent potential within him that can be dredged up, can he really reach Zongsha realm? If you wish to achieve a breakthrough, you can definitely do it. But if you don't want to, let's just forget it. I don't want to waste my effort. Zhongxian said calmly. Of course I do. I beg of Yangsha, offer me your guidance so that I can achieve a breakthrough. Not even hesitating in the least, Shun Hong immediately knelt to the floor. All signs of discontentment from before had vanished without a trace. That epiphany from before was just self-consolation for his plight. For a chance to achieve a breakthrough and live longer, only a fool would reject it. It isn't difficult for you to live on. However, circling around Shun Hong, Zhongxian seemed to be examining his body condition. Then, he suddenly stopped. With eyes as deep as the abyss, he said, You have to listen to my words and follow my instructions obediently. Do not try to go against my words, or else, I won't be able to help you. In short, you just have to do whatever I ask of you and cooperate with me. There's no need for you to ask any questions. That's simple. I will do as you say. He thought that the other party would come up with a difficult request. However, upon hearing that it would be that easy, Shun Hong quickly nodded his head and agreed to it. Back then, when he studied under his teacher, it was the same as well. As such, he thought nothing of it. However, the moment he said those words, he saw Emperor Shenzui and the three master teachers looking at him with sympathetic gazes. Of course, they feel sympathy for him. This Yangsha might be capable, but his bizarre means are truly hard to accept. To be asking for the other party's approval before the treatment has started, even by using one's toe to think, it is clear that he is up to no good. What's wrong? Upon seeing their gazes, Shun Hong felt puzzled. He had been on the verge of death the last few days and as such, he was ignorant of what had happened to Zhuangxia. He thought that there was something wrong with his words. Nothing. Resisting his urge to speak, Emperor Shenzui wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He had witnessed Yangsha's eccentric means for himself. It seemed that this royal elder of his would be ravaged, just like Zhuangxia. It's good that you are agreeable. Emperor Shenzui, find some female dancers from the royal palace here. They must have good figures. Upon seeing him agree, Zhongxian nodded his head. Then, he turned to Shenzui and spoke in full seriousness. Female dancers. Emperor Shenzui and the three master teachers were baffled. The dancers in the palace can only dance, they possess extremely low cultivation. What is his purpose of calling them here? Will getting them here help Shen Hong achieve a breakthrough? Besides, he requested for those with good figures. Why doesn't it sound like a treatment method at all? Yes. Even though it was incomprehensible to Emperor Shenzui, he knew that it was impossible for him to understand Yang She's wisdom. Thus, he quickly passed down the command without any hesitation. The personnel within the palace acted quickly, and in a few moments, a dozen of beautiful dancers with voluptuous figures entered. Even though they paled far in comparison to Shun Bai Yu, they were still stunning beauties. Every single movement of theirs induced great pleasure in the audience. Yang She, are they all right? Not bad, just that they are wearing too much. Get them to take off those long sleeves and such. Zhong Xian instructed. Wearing too much. Bizarre expressions appeared on the faces of the three master teachers. Looking for dancers and getting them to strip. Are you sure you are helping him to achieve a breakthrough? Why does it feel like he is patronizing a brothel and choosing a woman of his liking? If not for the fact that they were curious to see what Yang She would do, they wouldn't have stayed a second longer. They had already witnessed how unorthodox Yang She's methods could be. Even so, they had not imagined that it would be so unorthodox. Capable master teachers tend to be austere, and their means tend to be upright. Yet, why does your treatment method seem like finding prostitution instead? Even though they did not know what he was up to, they had a bad premonition. The dancers were properties of the royal palace. Not just stripping, they would even do other stuff without hesitation when commanded to. Upon hearing the orders, they quickly stripped the long sleeves and such, leaving behind their tight innerwear. The sight of spring unfolded before everyone's eyes. All right, Emperor Shenzui, help me prepare a few more items. Zhong Xian turned over and whispered into the other party's ears. Yang She, feel free to speak of your demands. What? Halfway through his words, Emperor Shenzui exclaimed in shock. His eyes widened and he almost went insane. Yang She, if you have such interest, I can send as many people as you like to your residence. Here isn't appropriate. Don't spout so much nonsense, hurry up. Zhong Xian rushed him. Yes. With a tearful face, Shenzui hurriedly made arrangements as Zhong Xian had instructed him to. Of the three master teachers, Liu Ling was the strongest. Even though Zhong Xian had spoken in a hushed voice, he nevertheless managed to overhear his words. Instantly, he staggered and a feeling of vertigo overwhelmed him. What did he get Shenzui to do? Looking at his expression, Zhuangxian and Zheng Fei knew that he must have heard something. They couldn't hold back their curiosity and asked him about it. He wanted Emperor Shenzui to bring something over. Liu Ling had a blank look on his face. Something? What can it be, for Shenzui to be so shocked? It's aphrodisiac. Aphrodisiac. Zhuangxian and Zheng Fei were dazed for a moment, then slowly, their eyes widened. The heck? They knew that Yang She's solution was definitely going to be damned. Even so, when they heard of his instructions, they nearly vomited blood. It was exactly as they had guessed, the other party was indeed up to no good. They had seen people demanding for tonic, pills, spirit treasures, and secret manuals. That was their first time witnessing someone demand aphrodisiac. Looking for dancers and having them strip, then finding someone to get this item over. You sure are meticulous. Brother, are you helping him to achieve a breakthrough or are you helping him to exercise? The trio looked at Shen Hong once again, and endless pity reflected in their eyes. Even though Zhuang Shi was battered while covered under a gunny sack, at the very least, his reputation remained untainted. If he were made to do some uncultured act in public for his breakthrough, he might have just died from anger on the spot. While the others were still astonished by Zhong Xian's request, a servant had already entered, carrying with him a jade bottle. It was filled with specially made medicine. Most emperors keep a large back palace, and Emperor Shenzui is no exception. It wasn't difficult to find such medicine in the royal palace. Swallow it. Taking over the jade bottle, Zhong Xian walked over to Shen Hong. Yes, royal elder Shen Hong had no idea what was inside, but at that moment, he had full confidence and awe for Zhong Xian. After grabbing over the bottle, he swallowed the medicine inside without any hesitation. Looking at the other party's candor movement, The eyebrows of the three master teachers and Emperor Shenzui twitched. All right, go and dance with them. Upon seeing him swallow the medicine, Zhongxian nodded his head in satisfaction. Dance? Shenhong was taken aback. As an elder, he has to dance with these young ladies. Furthermore, they are all dressed scantily. If he were to really head over, it is likely that he will be in constant physical contact with them. Just as he was battling the conflicting thoughts in his mind, he suddenly felt a surge of heat spreading from his belly. Then, looking at the dancers once more, an urge suddenly tugged at him. Tzzzzzzzzzz. That urge grew stronger and stronger. Soon, he found himself losing control. It must be said that the medicine which Emperor Shenzui found was indeed incredible. The medicine took effect swiftly. In a few breaths, Shenhong's eyes had turned red and he was no longer able to suppress his urge. After consuming this medicine, even if there were no enticement before the person, one would already find the heat unbearable. At the instant, there were so many beautiful and voluptuous young ladies before Shenhong. Furthermore, they were dressed scantily. It would be truly weird if Shenhong could hold himself back. With a roar, Royal Elder Shenhong dashed forward. Stop him. Make those dancers dance before him. The more seductive their dance is, the better it is, Zhongxian commanded. Yes. Cold sweat streamed down Emperor Shenzui's head. What kind of breakthrough method is this? Feeding the other party aphrodisiac, but only allowing him to watch. Hoo. Upon hearing the commands, the movements of the dancers became more provocative and sexy. Their alluring figures swayed suggestively. Light reflecting off their snow-white skin made them seem exceptionally warm, as though jade, inviting one's hands. Their movements were exceptionally capable of evoking an itch in men. Putting aside Shenhong, who had swallowed the aphrodisiac, even the three master teachers began to feel the temptation. Will this really help him achieve a breakthrough? Initially, they had thought that beating one up was already a very eccentric method. To think that Zhongxian had worse methods up his sleeves. The three master teachers were on the verge of crying. Witnessing the situation, they felt as though all the theories and principles they had learned in the last few decades were all worthless. Chapter 189 The Eccentric Method to Treat Shenhong to Shenzui. What did you feed me? Sensing the uncontrollable urge in him, as well as the indissipable heat that rose within him, Shenhong finally realized that something was wrong and he roared furiously. It's aphrodisiac. Shenzui could only answer truthfully. Aphrodisiac? I'll screw your grandma. Shenhong staggered. He never thought that a day would come which his own grandson would feed him aphrodisiac. Damn, are you toying with me? Shenhong felt that he was going insane. Royal Elder, please don't blame me. It's Yangshe who asked me to do so, I had no choice. Emperor Shenzui was on the verge of tears as well. When he almost killed the royal elder by feeding him the medicinal solution, a trauma was left in his heart. Now, he was reprimanded just because he followed Yangshe's instructions. What did I do? All I want is for you to live longer. In the end, this is how you perceive my good intentions. Yangshe. With reddened eyes, he suppressed the agitation within him and turned to look at Zhongxian. Zhongxian had an impassive and upright look, as though he would never commit such a vile act. Turning around, he slapped Emperor Shenzui on his face. Bullshit. As a master teacher, Yangshe is an upright person. How could he possibly feed me such stuff? If you dare to push the blame onto Yangshe once more, I will kill you right away. Shenzui. Upright? How in the world is he upright? Didn't he slap you unconscious just a moment ago? Talking about pushing the blame. If not for his orders, do you think that I would dare feed you this? Emperor Shenzui felt so indignant that he nearly vomited blood. He turned to look at Yangshe with a pleading gaze, hoping for him to explain the issue to his grandfather. Yet, that fellow looked at the ceiling with his hands behind his back, as though it was none of his business. It was as if he was saying, you were the one who did it, I don't know anything at all. You bastard. To think that I doted on you so much. Aya, I can't hold myself back anymore. Don't obstruct my path. Royal Elder Shenhong cursed, and he finally succumbed to the heat in his chest. With the howl of a wolf, He dived toward the beautiful dancing ladies. Right when he was about to reach them, he suddenly felt a dull pain at the back of his neck. Pada. He fell to the floor, unconscious once again. The one who made the move was Zhongxian. Seeing that the royal elder had been knocked unconscious, Emperor Shenzui heaved a sigh of relief. Yangshe, what do we do now? Awaken him. Then, get these dancers to continue dancing before him. Zhongxian instructed. Continue. Emperor Shenzui's lips trembled. Oh, right. When he wakes up, say that you were the one who knocked him out. Also, when he fails to control his emotion anymore, I will knock him out myself. Of course, you must admit that you were the one who did it. Zhongxian said. Emperor Shenzui. Knocking the daylights out of a person right after you awaken them. Have you gotten addicted or what? Furthermore, I have to admit that I'm the one who did it. Emperor Shenzui felt so much frustration in his heart that he could go into a frenzy. He was about to reject the plan when he saw Yangshe look at him with a stern expression. Don't reject me. This concerns whether the royal elder can survive. There mustn't be the slightest error in the matter, otherwise, the plan will end in failure. This time, Emperor Shenzui really cried. Royal elder, it really isn't me, it's Yangshe who wishes to do you in. Thus, right after Emperor Shenzui woke Shenhong, the latter was knocked unconscious again. Then, Emperor Shenzui woke Shenhong again, and soon after, he was knocked unconscious yet again. By the side, Liu Ling, Zhuang Fei, and Zheng Fei were stunned by the sight before them. They felt like tearing their hair out from watching the insanity that was unfolding before them. Liu Shi, you are knowledgeable. Can you tell what kind of breakthrough method Yangshe is employing? After a long moment of silence, Zhuangxian asked. I can't tell anything at all. Liu Shi's face flushed. Breakthrough method? How in the hell does this look like a breakthrough method? Of the hundreds of methods master teachers employ, there are a few fixed rules to helping one achieve a breakthrough. However, there doesn't seem to be any that involves having a person consume aphrodisiac. What's worse, it is one matter to feed the person aphrodisiac, but to intentionally find beautiful ladies to entice the person and knock him out when he can no longer control himself. I don't think that he is helping him achieve a breakthrough. Rather, it seems more like he is toying with him. It is a pity that Shenhong, despite the prestige he had built up over the years, now appears to be a frequenter of brothels. The moment he wakes up, he charges toward the bodies of the beautiful ladies. Like hell he would achieve a breakthrough like this. I think that Yangshe is toying with Shenhong. I've never heard of anyone who could break through in such a way after consuming aphrodisiac. Zheng Fei shook his head. With a steeled face, he said, this is a farce. Liu Shi, I think it would be best if we step out to interfere. How can we, as master teachers, allow such absurdity? This. Liu Ling hesitated. There's nothing to hesitate about. Look at Shenhong, he is already driven mad. If news were to spread out, his reputation would be tarnished, even after his death. Zheng Fei harumphed. Upon hearing those words, Liu Ling and Zhuangxian lifted their head to look at Shenhong. As the other party had said, the gentlemanly Shenhong appeared to be a depraved lunatic at the moment, lunging toward those seductive ladies. Also, the clothes on his body were almost completely ripped apart. His eyes were crimson red, and he seemed to be a wild, hungry wolf. But the method Yangshe used for my breakthrough was also incomprehensible. Can this be the case as well? Even though it looks awful on the surface, he is actually doing it for Shenhong's welfare. Zhuangxian's mouth twitched. You have a master teacher as your father, and as such, you were too obsessed with the conventional rules and principles. Thus, his method of inciting you into a rage was understandable. But this. How can Shenhong achieve a breakthrough like this? Putting aside whether the possibility exists or not, given Shenhong's current frenzied state, even he has sufficient zhenqi, it is impossible for him to achieve a breakthrough, Zheng Fei said. Zhongshe is the very first difficult hurdle of the Fighter 9 dance. The gap between it and Tongxian realm is overwhelming, as though the difference between a fish and a dragon. While it is true that one gains incredible strength upon achieving this breakthrough, countless geniuses, even when in their top form, find themselves unable to make this final step. At this moment, Shen Hong has already lost his rationality and is blindly charging at the beautiful ladies. In such a state, how can he possibly succeed? Isn't that a joke in itself? If it is true, no one would have to cultivate. Won't one become a Zhongshe just by frolicking around brothels? But there's no buts. Liu Shi, it is best that you make your decision quickly. I can guarantee with my own life that it is impossible for Shen Hong to break through like that. If he succeeds, I will chop off my own head. Zheng Fei said confidently. Boom. Before he could finish his own words, he felt a powerful aura emanating from not too far away. It felt warm, as though the fiery sun. What is going on? Hurriedly turning around to take a look, they saw Royal Elder Shen Hong, who was frenziedly charging at the beautiful ladies just brief moments ago, sitting still on the floor, as though a saint. His breath was powerful and deep, reminiscent of the vast ocean. His weakness from a moment ago had disappeared without a trace, and at that very moment, as though a young man, he exuded overwhelming vitality, such that even Emperor Shenzui, who was standing by his side, paled in comparison. Fighter 8 Dan, Zhongshe Realm, did he really achieve a breakthrough? All Zheng Fei felt was a stinging sensation on his face, as though he had been slapped hard by someone else. He felt like crying. He had just mentioned that it was impossible for the other party to succeed, and he was proven wrong immediately. Reaching Zhongshe Realm by consuming aphrodisiac? Can anyone tell me what is going on? Chapter 190, Lu Xun borrows money. While Zheng Fei was still feeling depressed over the matter, Liu Ling and Zhuangxian's mouths dropped so wide open that it seemed as though duck eggs could be stuffed into their mouths. There is a qualitative difference between Fighter 8 Dan Zhongshe Realm and Fighter 7 Dan Tongxian Realm, and their life energies are vastly different. As such, upon achieving a breakthrough, one's longevity is extended drastically as well. An ordinary cultivator usually only lives up to 70 to 80. On the other hand, reaching 100 isn't a problem for a Zhongshe Realm expert. That is also the reason why breaking into this realm is so difficult. It is as though leaping across a gigantic gorge. Just by looking at how these master teachers are stuck at half Zhongshe, it is clear to see how difficult this final step is. The master teachers had been paying attention to Shen Hong's condition ever since they arrived at Tianxian Kingdom. His vitality had already deteriorated to the gutters and he was on the verge of death. Even if he has sufficient shenqi, it should have been an impossible task for him to achieve a breakthrough, considering his terrible state of health. Yet, they had never imagined that this Yang Shi could solve this impossibility with just a single pill. The vast contrast between their abilities made the master teachers feel as though all of the knowledge they had obtained throughout their careers were worthless. Initially, Emperor Shenzui shared the same thoughts as the three master teachers. He thought that that was an attempt of Yang Shi to toy with him. Yet, contrary to his imagination, the royal elder really managed to achieve a breakthrough. That is Zhongshe Realm expert in the bones. Thank you, Yang Shi. After an unknown period of time, Shen Hong stood up and howled abruptly, resembling a massive dragon that had awakened from its slumber. Then, he walked to Zhongxian and knelt before him. Having been trapped in the same cultivation realm for numerous decades, he thought that he would perish without achieving the breakthrough. Yet, to think that at the very last moment, he would succeed. Witnessing the royal elder kneel before him, Zhongxian did not step forward to help him up. Contrary to that, he placed his hands behind his back, surveyed the surroundings, and slowly walked around. Shen Hong's vitality was at its ends, and his deteriorating bodily functions had reached the breaking point. At that moment, his will to live had already been shaved thin. It is precisely because of this that he was able to see through life and death, view it as a natural occurrence, and no longer fear death. Under such circumstances, regardless of his state of mind or his physical condition, they were all in the worst possible condition to achieve a breakthrough. Even the more potent Tier 2 or Tier 3 pills would not have been effective in helping him achieve a breakthrough and reach Zhongshe Realm. Everyone was aware that he was explaining all that happened, so they stayed completely silent and listened attentively to his words. Thus, for him to live on, we had to create a compelling reason for him. Furthermore, it had to be something which he is unable to resist. All men, regardless of time and condition, are unable to resist young beautiful ladies, needless to say, after being fed with aphrodisiac. Under the stimulation of the substance, his body raged once again, returning him back to youthful times. Once all these emotions accumulate sufficiently, achieving a breakthrough becomes much easier. Of course, more importantly, his cultivation technique played a huge role. If I'm not wrong, it should be blazing sun formula. At this point, Zhongxian turned to look at him. Yes. Shen Hong nodded his head to affirm Zhongxian's conjecture. The cultivation technique he had cultivated is the blazing sun formula, the strongest cultivation technique in Tianxian Kingdom. This cultivation technique contains the nature of the blazing sun within it, and a practitioner will find himself with an excess of yang energy. It is an incredibly valuable secret manual, and its true might is displayed when the one cultivating the technique is a man. Rationally speaking, as his vitality had already been sapped clean, even with the augmentation from pills, it was impossible for his body condition to return back to its peak. However, years of cultivation under the blazing sun formula had caused a large amount of yang qi flames to accumulate within his body. Then, at this very moment, they were all triggered by the medicine, and the enticement of the beautiful ladies was equivalent to throwing oil on top of the flames. Instantaneously, a massive fire was ignited within him. Thus, when he focused all of his energy at a single point, it wasn't difficult at all for him to achieve a breakthrough. After finishing his explanation, Zhongxian stood quietly on his spot and looked at the others. The surroundings were deathly silent. In actual fact, he hadn't mentioned the most important reason behind Shen Hong's breakthrough. Regardless of the aphrodisiac or the blazing sun formula, they were merely small contributing factors. The deciding one was him knocking the other party out. Every time he knocked him out, he would infuse a sliver of his zhenqi into the other party's body and unclog a blocked meridian within his body. Then, having all of his meridians cleared up, along with his raging emotions and energy within his body, he was able to push through at the very last moment and reach Zhongsha realm. Due to the limitations of his cultivation realm, even though it was easy for him to deceive Sun Qiong and the others, it was likely that Shen Hong would notice his pure zhenqi. In order to prevent him from detecting anything, he had Emperor Shen Zui claim that he was the one who knocked the other party out. It wasn't because he wanted to act as a good person. Upon the other party's breakthrough, Zhongxian's zhenqi had already melded completely into the other party's. It was as though a pail of clear water had been mixed into a river of muddied water. It is impossible to locate it anymore. Upon hearing his explanation, the three master teachers were taken aback. The heck, this works as well? They were master teachers who had gone through rigorous conventional training, and as such, they have had many opportunities to observe how other master teachers help others achieve breakthroughs in their cultivation. Even so, this kind of breakthrough method, it was they ever saw anything like it. This is no longer unorthodox, it is simply inconceivable. It is something that no one would have ever thought of. To think that one can achieve a breakthrough by eating aphrodisiac. Has the world gone mad? There are many different methods to induce a breakthrough in one's cultivation. Most of the time, sticking to the convention principles won't work. As a master teacher, rather than sticking firmly to the old rules, one has to continue learning and trying new things. Zhongxian waved his hands casually. The setting sun cast a long shadow behind his back, and he looked like an incredible expert uncomprehended by the world. An unspeakable loneliness emanated from his figure. We will keep Yang Shi's teachings to heart. The three master teachers bowed immediately. At that moment, they couldn't be any more impressed by this Yang Xian. There is no way but to be impressed, too godly. Through a random beating, he was able to induce a breakthrough in Zhuangshu, whose cultivation had been at a standstill for many years. A random mixing of poisons, and he was able to successfully concoct a medicinal solution that only poison masters are capable of making. Just by feeding Shen Hong aphrodisiac, he was able to bring the other party up to Zhongsha realm. Even though they had seen all of these with their own eyes, it nevertheless felt like a dream. UN. Seeing that they've comprehended the matter, Zhongxian nodded his head. Just as he was about to take his leave and return back to his mansion, he saw a pair of eyes appearing before him. The face before him was flushed with embarrassment and excitement. Taking a step back, He took a closer look and realized that it was Zheng Fei. He is the person who was the most doubtful of his actions. He was even willing to guarantee that it would be impossible for Shen Hong to achieve a breakthrough, or else he would cut off his head. But now, his eyes were gleaming, as though he had struck lottery. "What are you up to?" Zhong Xian was wary of him. "Yangshe, I've also been stuck in Half-Zongshe for many years. Since there are medicine and beautiful ladies here, I would like to try to break through to Zongshe realm as well." Zheng Fei held a jade bottle in his hands. He poured out a pill and he was about to swallow it. Zhong Xian, Emperor Shen Zui, Liu Ling, and Zhuang Xian. It took much effort before he managed to convince the other party otherwise. Zhong Xian sighed. Every person's cultivation technique, personality, and cultivation are different. As such, the relevant methods to achieve breakthroughs are different as well. As a master teacher, there was no doubt that Zheng Fei understood this. However, he nevertheless underestimated the allure of the Zongshe realm. Increasing one's longevity so drastically. Just this by itself is able to make anyone lose his rationality. In fact, Zheng Fei wasn't the only one who was moved by Zhong Xian's actions. Even Liu Ling and Zhuang Xian were staring at him with burning eyes. Since the other party was able to help the dying Shen Hong achieve a breakthrough, given that they are at the peak of health, wouldn't it be easier for them to reach Zongshe realm? Upon thinking of this, the three master teachers made up their mind to get close to Yangshe so that he would offer them guidance for their breakthrough. Understanding the intentions of the trio, Zhong Xian felt his goosebumps rising. He hurriedly bid his farewell and prepared to leave, but at this moment, a guard walked into the hall. "Your Majesty, Lu Zun and Wang Chao from Hongtian Academy request for an audience." "Why would they be here at this time?" Emperor Shen Zui was taken aback. Then, he nodded his head and said, "Get them to enter. It is highly likely that these two-star teachers would become master teachers in the future. Even though he is the emperor of a country, he doesn't dare to offend them. Furthermore, their parents share a deep relationship with him." Zhong Xian was also startled. "Lu Zun, Wang Chao, didn't the duo just pay me a visit? Why are they here now? Could it be that they noticed me leave the mansion and made a chase? But that's impossible." Doubtful, Zhong Xian, who was about to leave, ceased his footsteps. Even though Lu Zun had challenged him to a teacher evaluation, he had never met him. Since they had happened to stumble upon each other, it was also a good opportunity to take a look at the rival and find out his capabilities. Emperor Shen Zui commanded for the dancers to back down and had the servants pack up the hall. As Shen Hong's clothes were all tattered, he wasn't in a good position to meet anyone. Thus, he left as well. Right after the servants were done packing up and they had assumed their seats, the two young men walked in. With a clear look at their appearance, Zhong Xian frowned. "Aren't they the two arrogant fools whom I saw at the entrance of the academy yesterday?" After so much commotion, it turns out that they are the legendary Lu Zun and Wang Chao. It was no wonder that their gazes were filled with such contempt when they met him. They had probably recognized him then. "Lu Zun, Wang Chao, pays respect to your Majesty, Liu Shi, Zhuang Shi, and Zheng Shi." The duo clasped their hands. They had met Emperor Shen Zui, so naturally, they recognized him. Even though the faces of the three master teachers were foreign to them, their master teacher robes revealed their identities. As for Zhong Xian, due to an excessively extravagant dress-up and a crude behavior, he appeared to be an ordinary rich merchant. With a single glance, they decided to disregard the other party's presence. A star teacher also has his own pride. There is no need to pay respects to everyone he meets. They had heard of Yangshe and wanted to pay him a visit, but the truth was that they didn't even know of his appearance. As such, they couldn't tell that the person sitting before them was him. Besides, they had just been to Yangshe's residence, and Yangshe was there back then. "May I know the reason for your visit at such a timing?" Upon seeing the two of them disregard Yangshe, Emperor Shen Zui was filled with displeasure. He was about to introduce him when the latter gestured that there was no need to do so. Thus, he could only swallow in his words and question doubtfully. "Your Majesty, we have a presumptuous request to ask of you." Lu Zun hesitated for a moment before speaking. "We hope to borrow 3 million from your Majesty." Borrow money? Emperor Shenzui was puzzled. Given their illustrious family backgrounds, why would they need to request this of him? Besides, why do they need to borrow so much money at that? We hope to pay a visit to Yangshe, and your majesty has probably heard of Yangshe's protocol as well. In order to enter his mansion, one has to pay 3 million. Upon seeing his doubtful expression, Lu Xun got straight to the topic at hand and spoke of his motives. Once we meet Yangshe, we are confident that we can convince him to accept us as his apprentice. By then, he will definitely return the 3 million to us, and we will be able to return the sum to your majesty. Pay a visit to Yangshe? Upon hearing his motive, Emperor Shenzui and the 3 master teachers glanced at one another. The Yangshe that you said you want to visit isn't seated too far from you now. Yet, due to your arrogance, you refused to even greet him and chose to disregard him. Even so, you wish to become his apprentice. A peculiar expression appeared on the faces of the crowd. On the other hand, Zhongxian scratched his head as he looked at them. He was truly curious why these fellows were so confident that the 3 million would be refunded to them. Why are you so confident that Yangshe will accept you? What if he doesn't accept you, and the 3 million isn't refunded? How will you repay the loan? Lifting up his hand to stop Emperor Shenzui and the 3 master teachers from revealing his identity, Zhongxian glanced at them curiously. Chapter 191 Zhongxian's Legend 1 I, Lu Xun, have made a humble reputation for myself in Tianxian Kingdom. At the very least, I have this much confidence in myself. As for whether Yangshe accepts me or whether the 3 million will be refunded, there is no need for you to worry about it. Even before Emperor Shenzui and the 3 master teachers could speak, the middle-aged merchant dressed in fur coat and a silk cap challenged his words. Lu Xun couldn't help but frown. Since the other party could be seated alongside His Majesty and the 3 master teachers, this meant that he possessed exceptional social standing. Even so, he, Lu Xun, was confident that his standing would definitely not be inferior. Putting aside the fact that his father was the emperor's tutor, just considering his accomplishment of becoming the most capable star teacher in Tianxian Kingdom at such a young age, he was more than qualified to be seated alongside the heads of powerful clans. For example, even clan head Wang Hong would have to address him respectfully as Lu Laroche, not daring to act haughtily before him at all. Yet, this fellow, despite being just a mere wealthy merchant, not to mention, crude, dares to question me? So what if you have some status? I am talking to Emperor Shenzui, and it's not your place to be interfering in the matter. Who do you think you are? Upon witnessing his confidence, the 3 master teachers nearly choked on their saliva. Despite being genuine master teachers, the 3 of us do not dare to disrespect him at all. Yet, you, a mere star teacher who isn't even an apprentice yet, why are you behaving so arrogantly? I'm not worried for you. It's just that I think that if the money isn't refunded, you won't be able to answer to His Majesty. Even if you were to be sold, I doubt that you will be worth that much. Zhongxian shook his head. He was simply giving kind advice, but to think that he would receive such a rude reply. Zhongxian felt frustrated. Mister, please mind your words. This time, before Lu Xun could even speak, Wang Chao's eyes narrowed. Lu Xun Laroche is the #1 star teacher of Hongtian Academy. He is someone who will become a master teacher one day. Do you think that he will default on a mere 3 million gold coins? What a joke. If I were to phrase it more directly, he might not even accept this sum of money if some other people were to send it his way. Do you think that it is so easy to gain a favor from a future master teacher? Enough. Lu Xun interrupted his good friend's words. Then, with a straightened back reminiscent of a spear, he ignored Zhongxian once more and turned toward Shenzui. Your Majesty, you know how I am. Even if Yangshe refuses to refund me the sum, I am still confident that I will be able to return it quickly. This amount of money isn't worth putting my reputation on the stake. Even though star teachers cannot be compared to master teachers, it is still true that they are able to guide others to help them achieve breakthroughs. 3 million might be a huge sum, but as long as Lu Xun is willing to work for it, he will nevertheless able to make back such money within a short period of time. This. Emperor Shenzui hesitated. 3 million didn't mean anything to Tianxian Kingdom as a whole, But the reason why he was worried was that he was afraid of incurring Yang She's wrath. I've heard that Yang She is refusing to meet with outsiders. Even if you have the money, you might not be able to meet him. Paying no heed to the other party's disrespectful attitude, Zhongxian continued to speak. No matter what, this fellow is Master Lu Chen's son. It is highly possible that the latter does not know that he is here to borrow money. As such, I must try to persuade him. Given that they were going to cross blows at the teacher evaluation, they could be considered as enemies. However, to Zhongxian, these are two different matters. Master Lu Chen had provided him much help, and since his son was going to do something foolish, as a senior, Zhongxian felt he had the obligation to advise him. It is a problem of mine whether I am able to meet him or not. Mister, don't you think that you're going to a little too far interfering in my matters? Seeing how that fellow kept trying to ruin his plans, Lu Xun was finally displeased. I am trying to borrow money from His Majesty, not from you. His Majesty will have his own judgment on the matter, so there's no need for you to be so overly concerned with the matter. After which, he flung his robe angrily. Are you sick? I am borrowing money from Emperor Shenzui, yet you just have to keep trying to hinder my affairs. It isn't like I can't repay the sum, so what do you mean by this? Do you think that I, Lu Xun, am an easy target for you to bully? As a star teacher, if he doesn't uphold his own prestige and allow others to speak as they please in his presence, how can he instill respect in his students? Besides, the three master are observing the situation. If he were to cower when upon criticism, what rights does he have to become an assistant master teacher? Mister, regardless of your identity, this is a matter between Lu Xun Laroche and His Majesty. For you to be interrupting their conversation repeatedly, don't you think that you're going too far? Wang Chao harumphed coldly. Know your place. Don't you see that even the three master teachers aren't saying anything? Will you die if you do not speak? Going too far. Zhongxian was just offering his advice out of kindness so that the other party wouldn't waste this unnecessary sum of money. Yet, he was despised for doing so. He could only shake his head helplessly. Soon, his identity as Yang She would disappear, and it was obvious that his decision to want to become his apprentice was a mistake in itself. Initially, he thought that since he had met with them, he would be able to easily dispel the thought from their heads. Yet, his goodwill was thought of as a nuisance. Not only did the other party not appreciate his efforts, they even thought that he was interfering too much in the matter. However, it wasn't surprising for the other party to react like that as well. If Zhongxian were the one borrowing money, and someone else kept interrupting the conversation, he would be displeased as well. You are called Lu Xun, right? I've heard of your name before I even came. I think that his words make sense. You should reconsider the matter. Even though Zhongxian didn't mind the other party's sarcastic attitude, Liu Ling could not stand watching it any further. Initially, he had a good impression of Lu Xun, and he intended to test him before deciding whether to accept him as his apprentice. Yet, he didn't think that he would see this side of him during their first encounter. He is simply too arrogant speaking to Yang She like that, and the favorable impression that Liu Ling had of Lu Xun disappeared without a trace. Thank you Liu She for your advice, but my mind is made up. Hearing Liu She speak, Lu Xun did not speak to him with the same attitude as he did with the crude merchant. He hurriedly clasped his fists and answered politely. Upon seeing that the other party was reluctant to accept his advice as well, Liu Ling shook his head and fell silent. Yang She had stopped Emperor Shenzui from pointing out his identity, so it was clear that he didn't want the latter to know that his identity. Since that was the case, Liu Ling wouldn't get ahead of himself and reveal it either. It's merely 3 million. Given how Master Lu Chen is my teacher, giving it to you is not a problem as well. Upon seeing that Yang She didn't have any intentions of blaming Lu Xun for the matter, Shenzui was relieved and he spoke. This bit of money means nothing to the prestigious clans, needless to say, a kingdom. As the son of his teacher, giving it to Lu Xun straight isn't a problem either. Thank you, Your Majesty. However, since I've already said that I would borrow it, I will just borrow it. I do not wish to owe that person a favor. Lu Xun gestured proudly. Ever since he had fallen out with that old man of his, he didn't want to be associated with him in any way. Thus, How can he allow himself to owe that person a favor? Go retrieve 3 million gold coins. Knowing that the father and son held conflicts, Emperor Shinzui didn't say any more. He turned to a eunuch by the side and commanded. The eunuch turned to leave, and shortly, he returned with a stack of gold bills. Thank your Majesty. I will return it as soon as possible. After obtaining the gold bills, Lu Chen clasped his hands once more. UN. Emperor Shinzui waved his hands casually. It would be good if the other party can return the sum, but it doesn't matter if he can't. Now that the old ancestor has achieved a breakthrough and reached Zhongsha realm, Tianxian Kingdom will only grow more and more prestigious. Once they attract a master teacher here to assume the reins, it is highly possible that Tianxian Kingdom becomes a second-tier kingdom. A mere 3 million means nothing to him now. I won't intrude on your majesty any longer then. Lu Xun, Wang Chao, bids your majesty farewell. After obtaining the money, Lu Xun turned around and left immediately. After taking a few steps, he stopped abruptly and turned around to look at Zhongxian. I don't know who you are, but since you're able to be seated with the 3 master teachers and his majesty, I doubt that your background is anything simple. However, I would still like to offer you an advice. Oh. Zhongxian turned to look at him. When other people speak, it's crude to interrupt their conversation. It's irritating. A haughty expression appeared on Lu Xun's face as he flung his hands backward. He looked as if he were a sacred lotus, a being untainted by dirt. Then, he turned around and left without stopping again. Wang Chao glanced at Zhongxian and sneered before quickly following Lu Xun out. Once the duo left, the room plunged into silence. The 3 master teachers quietly stared at each other. That fellow. Where does his self-confidence come from? After a long period of time, Zhuangshi could not help but comment. He was truly infuriated. For a mere star teacher to be criticizing Yang Shi, whom even they have to be respectful toward. What guts! I was considering whether to accept him as my apprentice, but from the looks of it, I should drop the idea. He has no respect for his elders at all. Liu Ling shook his head as well. Lu Xun's fame was so great that it wasn't just limited to Tianxian Kingdom. Liu Ling and the others had long heard of him, but they didn't think that the first meeting would be so awkward. Yang Shi, I apologize in his stead. He doesn't know of your identity and unintentionally offended you. Upon noticing that even the 3 master teachers were displeased by Lu Xun's actions, Emperor Shinzui hurriedly turned to Yang Xian to appease him, in hopes that he wouldn't be angry. It's nothing. It is normal for one to get complacent having accomplished so much at such a young age. Zhongxian shook his head and stood up. All right, Shen Hong has reached Zhongsha realm, and it is time for me to leave. I hope that your majesty will send those Tongxian realm manuals over soon. Yes. Emperor Shinzui nodded his head hastily. Farewell. After bidding the other 3 master teachers farewell too, Zhongxian clasped his fists once more and left light-heartedly. Hot passion rose in the 3 master teachers and Emperor Shinzui once again. Did you see that? Other people would try their best to extort all kinds of benefits after helping someone achieve a breakthrough. Yet, he simply coolly. In fact, even when he was doubted and insulted by a junior, he did not get infuriated or annoyed. This is the kind of attitude and magnanimity that a true master teacher should possess. Liu Ling complimented. Indeed. I am completely impressed with Yang Shi. If I can become his disciple, it will truly be a great blessing. Zhang Fei nodded his head in agreement. I've heard of Lu Xun's reputation beforehand, but to think that he would be such a person. Upon recalling Lu Xun's actions, Liu Ling shook his head in disappointment. Then, he suddenly remembered something and asked, Your Majesty, you said that he is going to be competing with a teacher named Zhongxian in a few days' time. Is that true? In the few days which they had been in Tianxian Kingdom, their attention had been on Hongtian Academy. The matter regarding the teacher evaluation was no secret, so it wasn't surprising that they would be aware of it. Indeed. Emperor Shinzui nodded his head. After returning to the royal palace, he received Pavilion Elder Qian's report and gained knowledge of the 3-star incident. Even though the battle between 2 teachers isn't as shocking a news as Master Teacher Yang Xian's arrival, it nevertheless attracted the attention of numerous people. Since Lu Xun challenged the other party, that Zhongxian should be a star teacher of Hongtian Academy as well, right? But why have I never heard of his name? Liu Shi asked doubtfully. In an official challenge such as this, one usually faces another opponent of the same caliber. Lu Xun is the #1 star teacher of Hongtian Academy, and this Zhong Laoshe accepted his challenge daringly, so they should be on par. However, why hadn't he heard of the name of this accomplished teacher? Chapter 192 Zhongxian's Legend 2. Not only is he not a star teacher, he has also been condemned by many. This is also my first time hearing of Zhongxian Laoshe. Thus, I had someone specially look into his identity and not only is he not a star teacher, he has also been condemned by many. Recalling the contents in the report he had read through, Emperor Shenzui still found the matter hard to believe. With a bitter smile, he shook his head and said, "Do you know of Zhong Laoshe's previous reputation in the academy?" Reputation? What is it? The interest of the three master teachers was piqued. They turned to look at Emperor Shenzui intently. "It's trash," Emperor Shenzui said. "Trash?" The three master teachers stared at one another. "That's right. I've heard that this Zhongxian Laoshe scored a 0 in his teacher qualification examination, and he even caused his students' cultivation to go berserk. Thus, he is reputed as the worst teacher Hongtian Academy ever had," Emperor Shenzui said. "Scored a 0 in his teacher qualification examination? Caused his students' cultivation to go berserk? How can such a person remain as a teacher? Furthermore, since his results are that poor, why is Lu Xun competing with him?" The three master teachers were puzzled. Putting aside how poor Zhongxian's results were, Lu Xun is the #1 star teacher of the academy. Of everyone he could challenge, he chose to compete against a fellow who had scored a 0 in his teacher qualification examination. This is as though racing against a cripple, and competing in a hearing test with a deaf. Even if he won, what honor would there be? Furthermore, what if, against all odds, he loses? Allow me to first finish my story. That was his former title. About 10 days ago, a twist occurred. Emperor Shenzui continued. A teacher called Cao Xiong challenged him to an enlightenment will inquisition in a contest for a student, and everyone thought that Cao Xiong would emerge victoriously. Yet, a shocking conclusion occurred. This Zhongxian Laoshe isn't the trash that everyone put him out to be. On the contrary, he is an expert. He has already reached Pishua realm, and the student held a trust level of 64 in him. Even though Hongtian Academy had intentionally suppressed the news of the Enlightenment will Inquisition, it remained a simple task for the Emperor of Tianxian Kingdom to look into such a matter. He was well aware of all that had happened that day, and he spoke of it in detail to the three master teachers. Right after accepting a student, his student's trust level in him has reached 64. The level of a master teacher? How? How is this possible? To reach Pishua realm before 20 years of age? What incredible talent! Even students who study under master teachers find it difficult to accomplish such a feat. Inducing symptoms of a berserk cultivation to overcome innate sealed meridians, and to induce a breakthrough in his student from Fighter 1 Dan to Fighter 2 Dan within 10 minutes. The three master teachers stared at one another in astonishment. They found the situation too incredulous, and it was as though they were in a dream. In order to guard the school's reputation, he was willing to bear the name of the trash without saying anything. In the end, it was only because the other party went too far that he revealed everything. If all of these are true, then, isn't this Zhongxian Laoshe too noble? Zhuangxian was impressed. Despite being framed, just so as to not sully the name of the academy, he kept mum about the matter. Such magnanimity and professionalism, even the three master teachers find it difficult to achieve, needless to say, a young man who isn't even yet 20. I've sent someone to the teacher guild to investigate and have received a reply regarding the matter. Emperor Shenzui knew that the three master teacher found the matter unbelievable as well, so with a small gesture, he beckoned a eunuch over and took a letter from his hands. This is a personal writing from the teacher guild's elder Mo. The contents are exactly as I've said. Please take a look. After which, he handed the letter over. Upon receiving it, Liu Ling and the others took a quick and nodded their heads. That was a paper used by the teacher guild, and the seal of the guild was on it. It was unlikely for the contents on it to have been falsified, otherwise, Elder Mo would be punished. To think that such a talent is hiding in Hongtian Academy, Liu Ling's eyes lit up. He had intended to recruit Lu Zun as his apprentice, but after meeting the person in question, he couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed. This moment, after hearing the legendary affairs of Zhong Laroche, his interest was piqued once more. His conduct is noble, and he is willing to have his reputation sullied for the sake of the academy. Without regards for personal gains or losses, he gives his all for his students. I would like to meet such a teacher personally, Zhuangxian commented in awe. Master teachers hope to accept good apprentices. This doesn't just mean their ability to educate others and their reputation, their morals play an important part as well. After all, what is the use of recruiting a talented apprentice if he is ungrateful and immoral? Your Majesty, someone seeks an audience. Everyone was still immersed in their awe for Zhongxian when a guard suddenly walked in. Who is it? It's the butler of City Lord Zhao of Baiyu City, Yarrow Han. The guard reported. Allow him to enter. Emperor Shenzui nodded his head. City Lord Zhao Feng is a subordinate that he trusts heavily in, and as Yarrow Han is a close aide of Zhao Feng, Shenzui knows him as well. Yarrow Han pays respect to your Majesty. Soon, a middle-aged man walked in and knelt on the floor. It was Yarrow Han. General Yarrow Han, please rise. Emperor Shenzui beckoned. Even though Yarrow Han is only a butler now, he had followed City Lord Zhao Feng to numerous wars back then, achieving the position of a general through his contributions in them. For General Yarrow to come at this time, does City Lord Zhao Feng have anything to report? Knowing that it is impossible for the other party to visit the royal palace without any good reason, Emperor Shenzui asked. Your Majesty, our city lord intends to visit the capital in a few days' time, and he had instructed me to ask your Majesty for permission. Yarrow Han said. As an important official with heavy responsibilities in the country, Zhao Feng is not allowed to leave his post as and when he likes. Even if he wants to head to the capital, he has to inform the emperor in advance. Otherwise, if he were to secretly sneak here and the emperor found out about it, he would be punished severely. Visit the capital? Shenzui was taken aback. Yes, our young mistress has acknowledged Zhongxian Laroche as her teacher, and in order to awaken her unique constitution, Zhong Laroche had undergone the apothecary examination, obtained the precious frigid sun mothergrass and purchased the Tier 3 Unravel Yin pill for her consumption. Due to the immense gratitude toward him, City Lord has decided to come in person to thank him. Yarrow Han replied. Acknowledged Zhongxian? Frigid sun mothergrass? Unravel Yin pill? They were discussing Zhongxian just a moment ago, and upon hearing these words, they were all stupefied. Recovering from his daze, Emperor Shenzui spoke up. What is the matter about? Recount it to us in detail. Yes. Yarrow Han nodded his head. Then, he spoke of how Zhong Laroche had accepted Zhao Ya as his disciple, how he saw through her unique constitution, why he underwent the apothecary examinations, and so on in detail. Other people might not know the entire story, but after being beaten to a pulp by the other party, Yarrow Han went through the trouble to look into Zhongxian's matters. As such, he knows of the affairs surrounding him clearly and accurately. You mean to say that this Zhongxian Laroche had managed to pass the one-star apothecary examination? Not just so, in order to help his students to achieve a breakthrough, he spent a great amount of money to purchase pills and medicinal solutions, even tailoring cultivation techniques for their individual needs and requesting nothing in return. Due to the immense fatigue from staying up for multiple nights to create all of the battle techniques, he fell asleep lying on the chair. Upon hearing Yarrow Han's words, the three master teachers widened their eyes in shock. Agitated, they clenched their fists tightly. The basic responsibility of a teacher is to impart knowledge, skills, and clarify doubts. If one doesn't value his students, it is impossible for one to be a good teacher. For his own students, this Zhong Laroche had made so many sacrifices. He even hid all of it from his students. Even as master teachers, they couldn't help but be astounded by Zhongxian's character. Most importantly, he passed the apothecary examination and became an official apothecary. If one wants to take on the master teacher examination, one needs to have a supporting occupation. Since Zhongxian is an official apothecary, that means that if we accept him as our apprentice, he will be qualified to take on the master teacher examination with just a bit of guidance. The eyes of the three master teachers grew increasingly bright. For a master teacher to guide others, they need to possess a fearsome amount of knowledge as a prerequisite. They have to be well versed in various fields, to the point that they are qualified to become a member of their guild, or else, it would be impossible for them to offer concrete pointers. Apothecaries are considered one of the top professions among the upper 9 paths. Given that Zhongxian is already an official apothecary, if he were to be paired with an acceptable teaching formula and knowledge system, it wouldn't be difficult for him to become a master teacher at all. Even in Tier 2 and Tier 1 kingdoms, such apprentices are vied for by numerous master teachers. After all, it adds to a master teacher's prestige if one student becomes a master teacher as well. He is strong, able to tolerate injustices for the sake of the bigger picture, willing to try new methods to teach his students, doesn't despair or panic when misunderstood, knowledgeable, but is willing to lie low, humble, willing to abandon his all for his students. This truly is a good master teacher bud. The more Liu Ling spoke, the brighter his eyes grew. Zhengshe, since there's such a good teacher in Hongtian Academy, do you want to accompany me to take a look? Liu Shi, what are you talking about? It should be you accompanying me to take a look. I've been trying to look for such an apprentice all along. Zhuangshi chuckled. As a certified apothecary, I have an in-depth understanding of pill forging. It would be the most fitting for him to become my apprentice. Zheng Fei interjected. Having heard the various outstanding deeds of Zhongxian, the three master teachers could no longer hold themselves back. While teachers hope to strike up good relationships with master teachers also hope to accept capable and upright teachers as apprentices. Given how noble Zhongxian's character is, willing to give up his all for his students, not to mention that his potential far surpasses Lu Zun, how is it possible for the three master teachers remain unmoved? Seeing how the three masters were squabbling with one another over Zhongxian so vehemently, Emperor Shenzui and Yarohan were astonished. Other people try all means possible so that a master teacher spares a single glance at them, and yet, it is the direct opposite for this Zhong Larosha. The three master teachers hadn't met him yet, but they were already quarreling for him. However, recalling all of the deeds that he had accomplished, he is indeed someone worthy for master teachers to vie over. Looks like I should try to get on close terms with this Zhongxian Larosha. Emperor Shenzui made up his mind secretly. As the sovereign of the country, how can he give up on someone who wields such tremendous potential to become a master teacher? General Yarrow, inform Zhao Feng that he is free to come. At this point, he nodded his head immediately and consented to Yarohan's request. Regardless of whether it is for this kingdom or for him, it is good news. Through Zhao Ya, he should be able to easily tie Zhongxian Larosha onto Tianxian Kingdom's chariot. Once the kingdom possesses the backing of a true master teacher, the strength of the kingdom would be on the rise, and being promoted to a second-tier kingdom wouldn't just be a dream. Emperor Shenzui, we've decided to visit Hongtian Academy, so we won't be imposing on you for now. After a round of quarreling, the three master teacher decided to see firsthand if Zhong Larosha is as incredible as the rumors had put him out to be. After all, rumors tend to be exaggerated. Only by seeing it for themselves will they be able to make the most accurate judgment of the person. In any case, the other party also has the choice of choosing who he wants to acknowledge. Thus, it was pointless for them to argue here. Three master teachers, please feel free. Emperor Shenzui did not dare to hinder them, and he nodded his head in consent. Liu Ling, Zhuangxian, and Zheng Fei stopped their incessant chatter and quickly headed outside, straight for Hongtian Academy. Lu Zun. Watching the three master teachers leave for Zhongxian, Emperor Shenzui thought of Lu Zun, who had left earlier, and shook his head. From cultivation to knowledge, character, and teaching skills, the impression of the three master teachers, as well as reputation. This number 1-star teacher in Hongtian Academy has lost in every aspect. A complete defeat. Chapter 193, That's Yangsha? Oblivious to the fact that the impression that Emperor Shinzui and the three master teachers had of them had been ruined, Lu Xun and Wang Chao headed toward Yangsha's residence, their faces beaming with excitement. They were mocked and insulted previously due to their lack of money. Now that they have 3 million in their hands, no one would dare to stop them. Later, when we meet Yangsha, just dive straight into the main topic. Say that we're willing to become his apprentice and that we will serve him well. Lu Xun deliberated on the possible scenarios when they meet Yangsha before concluding, for Liu Shi and the others to be so much in awe of him, he must have reached at least 2-star or even higher. If we were to beat around the bush, we might incur his irritation instead. Rather, it might be better if we are straightforward. A master teacher has incredibly sharp eyes. It is best not to put on an act before such a person, otherwise, they would definitely be the ones to get unlucky. Once they incur the wrath of Yangsha, it would be out of the question for them to become his apprentices. You're right. Wang Chao nodded his head in agreement. Right, Wang Chao. You said that Elder Wang Chong learned a new spear technique, and he spent quite a bit of money for it. What happened? Suddenly recalling the matter, Lu Xun asked. Just a few days ago, my father was training in seclusion, so I was unable to reach him. I only came to know about the matter after asking the butler. He said that an expert visited the residence, and my old man spent millions as tuition fee to learn a single spear technique from the other party. Honestly, I can't imagine what kind of technique can be worth that much money. Wang Chao shook his head unhappily. As a clan of spearmasters, even though they possessed considerable properties, taking out a few million at once would still rattle the family's foundations. He didn't know why his father went mad all of a sudden, paying such a huge sum. No one surpasses Elder Wang Chong's understanding of the spear in the entire Tianqian kingdom. Since he was willing to take out so much money, it must mean that this spear technique is remarkable. You must learn it well. Lu Xun viewed the matter from a different perspective. Given the reputation Wang Chong enjoys in Tianqian kingdom, even being praised by Emperor Shinzui personally, his comprehension of spearmanship has reached an astonishing level. For such an incredible expert to be willing to pay so huge a price, how is it possible that the spear art be anything ordinary? I would like to learn it as well, but father refuses to teach it to me. According to the butler, father promised to only impart the spear art to another clan member with the creator's permission. Hence, anyone who tries to learn it secretly will be punished severely. Wang Chao pouted. He felt extremely discontented upon mentioning the matter. His father had been practicing that mysterious spear technique madly, and Wang Chao knew of it but wasn't allowed to learn. As such, he felt incredibly frustrated within and could only vent his frustration through complaining. The Wang clan's spearmanship tops the entire kingdom, and it is known by all to be a top-notch battle technique. I don't think that the expert spearmanship will be any stronger. Most probably, the elder is looking for a chance to make another breakthrough. After offering him a word of consolation, Lu Xun was about to continue speaking when he suddenly saw Wang Chao gesturing toward their back. Puzzled, he asked, "What's wrong?" "Look, that's the arrogant fellow from the royal palace." Wang Chao pointed to his back. Turning around, he saw the middle-aged man dressed in fur coat and silk hat walking in the same direction. Who else can it be other than that noisy fellow? Since he's able to sit alongside the three master teachers and His Majesty, even though his mouth is vile, he must possess an extraordinary identity. Let's not provoke him and focus on our matter instead. Sensing that his good buddy was about to pick a fight with the other party, Lu Xun immediately persuaded him otherwise. Even though he had never met that middle-aged man, he was unlikely to be an ordinary person for him to dare to interrupt his conversation with Emperor Shinzui. But, so what about it? They are star teachers with backing from powerful clans and are considered influential celebrities in the entire Tianqian kingdom. No matter how influential the other party might possibly be, it means nothing at all before them. Yuan, I understand. But why does it seem like he is following us? Wang Chao felt puzzled. He glanced backward once more to look at the other party. While the duo was speaking, they had turned at several corners, but the fellow was still behind them. What else can this be other than following? Perhaps he wishes to pay a visit to Yangsha as well. Let's not talk anymore. Butler's son is at the door, let's go pay him the sum. Lu Xun shook his head. He didn't want any troubles before acknowledging Yangshe as his master. After turning at 2 more corners, Yangshe's mansion appeared before them. There were many people still queuing at the entrance, and Butler's son Chong happened to be at the door as well. Wang Chao immediately walked over with his head held high and chest protruding. Putting on a haughty look, he squeezed through the crowd and handed the 3 million which he had just borrowed forward. Butler's son, here is the fee for both of us to pay a visit to Yangshe. Now you can let us in, right? Didn't you just mock us for being poor blokes? In just a short hour, we've brought the money here. This is called slapping your face in public. In their minds, they imagined that Sun Qiong's face would darken, and he would assume a subservient attitude, bending his back and fawning on them. But the plump man frowned instead. Without even turning to look at them, his chubby hands waved impatiently. Where did all of your nonsense come from? Didn't I say just now? From now on, Yangshe won't be accepting any more money. It doesn't matter how much you pay. So, for those whose names aren't called, don't cause any trouble here and scram. You! Rage surged through Wang Chao, and he nearly vomited blood. As one of the members of the top echelon of Tianqian Kingdom, he is highly respected no matter where he went. Even Emperor Shenzui has to treat him with considerable respect. Yet, a mere butler dared to tell him to scram, not once, but twice. The strong sense of humiliation infuriated him so greatly that he was about to erupt. Sun Qiong, do you know who you're talking to? With a darkened face, he walked forward and spat through gritted teeth. Oh, it's Wang Chao Larosha. Only now did Sun Qiong clearly see the other party's face, and he lifted his eyebrows. Why, you brought the money here this time? On the previous occasion, he was hesitant because of the other party's identity as a celebrity teacher. However, after seeing that the old master was completely unbothered by the matter, he realized that it doesn't matter whether one is a noble or a celebrity teacher. If you listen obediently, I'll speak up for you. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who you are. The moment Wang Chao heard Sun Qiong's reply, he nearly passed out from rage. The heck? What do you mean by that look of contempt? What do you mean by you brought the money here this time? If those who don't know better were to hear, they would think that I had come multiple times shamelessly without money. Wang Chao, calm down. Upon realizing that his friend was about to explode, Lu Xun shook his head and took a step forward. Even though this friend of his has good talent and is skilled in teaching others, he is hot-tempered and due to this trait, had got into plenty of trouble in the past. If he hadn't stepped in, it is likely that Wang Chao would have really turned violent. Beating up this fellow means sullying Yangshe's dignity. Not only will Yangshe not admit them as apprentices, he might just drive them away. Holding back his agitated friend, Lu Xun clasped his hands and smiled. Butler's son, I don't there's any need to introduce us anymore. It is our fault for not bringing the money here previously, so we brought the money this time along with the name scroll. May I trouble you to report this matter to Yangshe? If he truly refuses to meet with us, we will give up on the idea and bother you no more. With a single look, it was clear that Sun Qiong was a typical street person. Arguing with him would just make things more and more complicated, so Lu Xun decided to avoid unnecessary trouble and dive straight into the topic. Old Master has instructed that I am not to accept any more name scrolls. Other than those who have paid previously, no one is allowed to enter. However, since you two are celebrity teachers, I will play the good man and... Satisfied with Lu Xun's words, Sun Qiong nodded his head. Halfway through his words, he suddenly noticed that the old master had reached the gates. He pushed open the gates and walked into the courtyard. Actually, Sun Qiong's tantrum a moment earlier was to conceal the fact that the old master wasn't at the mansion. Upon seeing him return, he heaved a sigh of relief. He was about to enter the mansion delightfully when he heard an incensed bellow resounding. Butler son, what do you mean by this? We've paid the money and handed over the name scroll, but you still refuse to allow us to enter. Yet, why is that fellow able to enter directly, even without having to address you? Wang Chao was truly angered. When we didn't bring money, you criticized us and mocked us in public. Now that we've brought money, you still deny us entry. We would have just accepted the fact if everyone is subjected to the same treatment, but what is with that fellow with a fur coat and silk hat? Without submitting a name scroll or paying anything, he was allowed to enter just like that. What rights does he have to do so? Just because he's rich? Just because Emperor Shenzui regards him highly? Didn't you say that no one can enter? What happened to the righteous words that you spoke of earlier? Wang Chao was so furious that if anger were visible, a pillar of red would split the heavens. However, right after he said those words, the surrounding crowd turned to look at him immediately, as though they were staring at an idiot. Their eyes were filled with pity. Looking at those glances, Lu Xun suddenly thought of something. His body shuddered uncontrollably and his complexion turned awful. He turned to Sun Qiong and asked, "Butler Sun, the person who has just entered is?" "It's our old master." Sun Qiong harumphed coldly. "Yangsha." Lu Xun felt as though lightning bolts had struck him, and his entire body swayed. The furious Wang Chao seemed as though he had been slapped on his face. The words that he had wanted to say, in a split second, all jammed in his mouth. His face turned pale, and he quivered uncontrollably. "That's Yangsha. And we scolded him back in the palace for being too noisy. He tried to advise us out of kindness, but we simply disregarded his words out of indignance and even wanted to teach him a lesson." What is going on? Lu Xun and Wang Chao felt the world begin to spin around them, slowly crumbling apart. Even though Lu Xun and Wang Chao were prestigious figures in the eyes of many, the two of them celebrity teachers of Hongtian Academy, as Zhong Xian had come into contact with numerous top individuals within the kingdom in the past few days, their identities were far from being eye-catching. Looking at them now, they seem nothing more than conceited young men. It didn't matter to Zhong Xian whether the duo was traumatized. It sufficed to leave the matter to Sun Qiong. Zhong Xian could not be bothered. At this moment, he was sitting on his bed with a grim expression. After studying the Heaven's Path poison art, he had gained an in-depth knowledge of that topic. At the same time, he noticed a bizarre black poison aura within his body. In the royal palace, he was busy helping Shen Hong to reach Zongsha realm, and as such, he didn't have the leisure to look into the matter back then. Now that he is back at his mansion, he is anxious to take a look at it to find out what is going on. He has been healthy all along, so why is there poison aura lingering in his body? When did it sneak into his body? Puzzled, he focused his attention on the black poison aura. That black poison aura was hidden between his organs and meridians, making it hard to detect. If not for the fact that he had studied Heaven's Path poison art and gained an in-depth understanding of poison, he would have never noticed it. What kind of poison is this? Why haven't I seen it before? Taking a closer look at it, Zhong Xian's eyebrows knitted together. There were more than 1,000 books on poison in the kingdom's book collection vault, and the various types of poison, their nature, and their scent were all recorded within. Yet, the black poison aura in his body did not match any single one of those written in the books. Chapter 194. 3 Shocked Master teaches one, that is to say, this black aura is a lethal poison which he doesn't recognize. What exactly is it? Let's see if I can expel it. With a grim expression, Zhong Xian propelled the zhenqi within his body. Even though he has no idea what the poison aura is capable of, it would eventually pose to be a threat if left untreated in his body like that. Since he has become aware of it now, he has to solve the problem as soon as possible. Otherwise, with a ticking time bomb within him, he will never feel at ease. The books did detail how can one use his zhenqi to expel poison, and it isn't a difficult process. After spending a brief moment immersed in his thoughts, he mastered the skill. Gugugu. Upon seeing the surge of zhenqi, the black aura, as though it had met its nemesis, dived into his meridians and hid immediately. It doesn't work at all. Zhong Xian's face darkened. This poison aura is simply too formidable. To think that it is capable of hiding from the assault of zhenqi. At this moment, it had only dived into his meridians, so it isn't particularly critical. However, if it were to have dived frenziedly into an important organ, Zhong Xian would have probably died before he can even react to it. To be able to avoid zhenqi as though it possesses intelligence, what poison is this? Furthermore, when was I poisoned? Since he was unable to find any records of the poison in the book collection vault, this meant that it is a poison exclusive to the higher tier kingdoms. Yet, such a poison aura was found in his body. Zhongxian felt increasingly baffled. He tried using all kinds of detoxification method, but upon seeing that none of them were effective, he had no choice but to give up temporarily. It seems that the black aura is extremely fearful of his zhenqi, so it should not dare to cause any trouble for the time being. Otherwise, he couldn't have survived for so long without noticing it. However, even though there isn't any threat on his life for the time being, how he was poisoned is a huge issue. It is one thing if he had accidentally come into contact with the poison, but if it were the intentional doing of someone else and he was oblivious, this would be altogether a different matter. The enemy's first attempt had failed, so that means that there'll be a second try. I've to first ascertain whether I was afflicted before or after my arrival and whether it is an intentional act. At the very least, I can be on my guard. Warily, Zhongxian glanced at the black aura once more and examined it. Eventually, he failed to discover anything new. It isn't because Zhongxian is dumb, but because the poison is simply too advanced. It is beyond what Tianxian Kingdom understands, making it impossible for Zhongxian to identify it, and even less so, figure out when he was afflicted and who the culprit is. I should try using the Library of Heaven's Path. Just as Zhongxian was about to give up, a thought suddenly appeared in his head. Even though he is unable to personally discern anything, it doesn't mean that the library will be helpless as well. To trigger the Library of Heaven's Path and compile a book on something or someone, he needs to touch the object with his fingers or witness a person execute a battle technique. Since the poison aura is hidden in his meridians, it is impossible to touch. As for getting it to execute a battle technique, cough cough, that is even more ridiculous. However, verifying the answer to some basic questions isn't difficult for Zhongxian. Grabbing a blank book, Zhongxian took out his brush and started writing. The poison aura in my body only appeared after my reincarnation, and it is an intentional act. When Zhongxian's finger touched the book, an identical book appeared in his head. Casually flipping it open, the flaws of the statement he wrote appeared. After reading through the contents, Zhongxian's face darkened. Based on the feedback from the Library of Heaven's Path, the poison aura was already in this body before his reincarnation, and it was an intentional doing. That means that someone wanted to kill him. Could it be that the death of my previous self isn't because of alcoholism and depression, but because of this poison? He had been feeling perplexed over this matter for quite some time. How could a Zhenqi realm pinnacle expert die just from drinking alcohol? From the looks of it, it seems that wasn't the case at all. Thus, Zhongxian wrote all kinds of conjectures onto the book. An unknown period of time had passed before Zhongxian put down his brush. After half-day of testing his conjecture, he had obtained a rough idea of the entire matter. His previous self had indeed died from poisoning, and that opened the path for his reincarnation. The reason why he had been fine after the reincarnation is because the Heaven's Path zhenqi he cultivated is too pure. The poison aura feared it instinctively and was forced to a corner, unable to budge at all. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for Zhongxian to survive to this date. That is to say, the reason why Zhongxian could live to this moment is that he was diligent. Otherwise, without sufficient zhenqi, the poison aura would have counterattacked immediately and Zhongxian would have died from poisoning. Looks like another mess my previous self left me. After settling the problem regarding the teacher qualification examination, Zhongxian thought that he would gain freedom and would be able to live a carefree life. Yet now, he realized that he had been simplifying things. As long as the black aura lingers in his body, he would be in danger. I've to find a way to identify the person who wants to kill me. If the person who wished to kill him conceals himself, it would be impossible for Zhongxian to locate him. However, if the other party dares to make another move, using the Library of Heaven's Path, Zhongxian would be able to identify even his ancestors. Thus, Zhongxian didn't feel fear in the least and was merely puzzled. His previous self was just an orphan who didn't even have a relative. Not to mention, he also possessed trashy talent. Having not offended anyone, who in the world would use poison that one couldn't even find in Tianxian Kingdom to kill him? Given that the person was able to acquire such an advanced poison, he definitely boasts of some capability. Rather than going through so much effort, why didn't he just kill him straight? Aren't his actions, as though taking off one's pants to fart, excessive? Since Zhongxian could not make sense of the matter, he decided not to mull over it anymore. Without any clue who the person that poisoned him is, musing over the matter is futile. The best he can do now is to find a method to dispel the poison in his body. In order to dispel the poison, I have to first know what poison it is. There are 2 little books regarding poison in Tianxian Kingdom. Looks like I have to head to a place with more books. Possessing the Library of Heaven's Path, Zhongxian can treat himself as long as he is able to access sufficient books on poison. However, such books aren't easy to find. Zhongxian had read through the entire collection in the royal palace, but it is far from sufficient. As such, it is unlikely that any normal book here would be useful. After all, this poison is too advanced, so advanced that it can't be found in Tianxian Kingdom. Since the poison doesn't exist here, how can the solution be found here? To rid himself of the poison, Zhongxian will have to head for the higher-tier kingdoms to look for more books on poison. I should greet the 3 master teachers and inquire them about it later on. Even though Zhongxian is completely ignorant of the affairs of other lands, the 3 master teachers, in contrast, must be very familiar. They hail from higher-tier kingdoms and travel often. Thus, they definitely know more about the other lands than him. There's no need for me to panic. I should first solve the issues here. Since his Heaven's Path Zhenqi suppresses the poison aura, preventing it from acting up, he should be safe for the time being. Thus, Zhongxian shook his head, stretched his back, and gestured for Sun Qiong to call the next person in. Liu Shi, why do we have to change our clothes? The 3 master teachers were walking on the pavement in Hongtian Academy. Looking at the clothes they were wearing, Zheng Fei couldn't help but ask. He usually donned the robe of a master teacher, and regardless of where he went, others always treated him with the utmost respect. It felt weird to be dressed in casual clothes all of the sudden. The master teacher robe is too eye-catching. If we were to wear it here, Zhongxian Laosha would definitely rush here at first time's notice and act obediently and respectfully around us. If that's the case, how can we see his true character? Liu Ling spoke. Indeed. It is a good idea to conceal our identity. This way, we can see his true personality. Zhuangxian nodded his head in agreement. Zheng Fei came to a realization as well. Having changed into the clothes of an ordinary person and suppressed their cultivation, no one would guess that they are master teachers. People would simply think of them as ordinary elders. Only under such circumstances will they be able to peer into the truth. Soon, after asking about, they arrived at Zhongxian's classroom. This classroom is way too small. Observing the classroom before their eyes, Liu Ling and company frowned. They had seen the scale of Hongtian Academy for themselves on their way here, and even the most ordinary teacher possesses a classroom several hundred meters square large. Yet, the classroom before them isn't even 100 meters square large. Regardless of infrastructure or design, they are exceptionally simple and shabby. With a single glance, it was clear that this is the worst facility in the entire academy. Seems like that Zhong Laosha isn't treated very well in the academy. With such poor conditions, it is truly a wonder how Zhong Laosha manages to tolerate. If it were them, they would have long fallen out with the academy, flung their robes, and resigned. To be able to remain calm, humble, and motivated under such conditions, it seems that he places his responsibilities above his pride. I am impressed. Liu Ling expressed his heartfelt thoughts. Despite being subjected to unfair treatment, the other party doesn't bear any resentment or vent any frustration on his students. To not allow such humiliation get in the way of his character, that is truly impressive. Cousin Wang Dao, I still don't understand what Zhong Laosha spoke about the convergence of spirit energy. Can you explain it to me once more? Walking toward the classroom, before they even entered it, they could hear questioning voices from the grass patch before the entrance. The 3 men stopped in their footsteps. All right. However, Zhong Laosha's words were exceptionally profound and I understood less than 1/10 of it. In any case, I have made a note, so how about we study it together? The senior known as Wang Dao hesitated for a moment before replying. Great. The first voice chirped delightfully. Look, this is what Zhong Laosha said. In Jushi realm, one should view one's own body as a part of the natural flow of spiritual energy in the air and converge them together into one's body instead of forcefully absorbing it. This way, one will be able to better store spiritual energy and the rate of absorption of spiritual energy will increase. Back then, Zhong Laosha brought up 10 methods to do so, but I only remember 3 of them. We can study them together. Look at the first one. Wang Dao's voice echoed from the classroom. View one's own body as a part of the natural flow of spiritual energy in the air. Listening to the conversation between the two, the 3 master teachers became shocked. Their astonishment reflected on their faces. I've heard of this theory from my teacher. That Zhongxian Laosha is capable of speaking such profound logic as well. Liu Ling's jaws dropped. Whether one is truly an expert, his performance will tell. As master teachers, they stand at the very pinnacle of the occupation of teachers. Naturally, they hold a deep knowledge about imparting knowledge, and they are also capable of telling right from wrong. Even though they hadn't sat through Zhongxian's lesson, judging the conversation between the 2 students alone, they were able to tell that Zhong Laosha's theories are innovative, correct, and straightforward. Even they themselves find it hard to conduct a lesson of such standard. The theories brought up by the duo weren't incredibly profound, but they point straight to the essence of Jushi realm. It felt as though they were standing before a vast ocean, endless and unimaginably deep. The more they listened, the more it was beneficial to their cultivation. They had benefited greatly from the exchange. As the 3 master teachers continued to listen, they became increasingly amazed. Rooted to the spot, they shuddered with agitation. Chapter 195 3 shocked master teachers 2. To be capable of analyzing a mere Jushi realm so thoroughly, it seems that Zhong Laosha's comprehension toward cultivation isn't something that I can match up to. He has long reached the enlightenment realm. After eavesdropping on the conversation of the duo for another moment, Liu Ling could not help but say, to be enlightened means to have grasped the laws of the world. In the enlightenment realm, one's cultivation would have reached Zongsha realm. Only at that realm will one form his own school of understanding toward cultivation. Could it be that Zhongxian has already reached Zongsha realm? Zhuangxian found it unbelievable. It is not that only Zongsha experts are able to reach the enlightenment realm. Some incredible teachers, through their comprehension and study of cultivation, manage to form schools of their own. By imparting the knowledge and theories they have compiled to their students, they are able to enlighten their student to the truth, thus massively benefiting their students. Such teachers are absolutely rare and hard to find in the world. To think that this Zhong Laosha would be one of them. At this point, Liu Ling's eyes grew increasingly bright. He couldn't help but mutter, such a talented bud. Indeed. Even for me, I can't help but feel excited listening to his theories toward cultivation. To be able to describe the complex subject of cultivation in the simplest words such that anyone will be able to understand it. His standard is indeed astounding. Zhuangxian nodded his head. If one were to cultivate according to his theory, improvements would definitely be swift. One probably won't exceed a year in breaking through Fighter 1 Danjushi realm, Zheng Fei commented. However, it is a pity that we're just listening by the side. We are only qualified to attend the most basic lectures of Zhong Laosha. If we were taught by him personally, we might have already achieved a breakthrough. The 3 master teachers were wallowing in their awe for Zhongxian when they suddenly heard the voices before them echoing once more. Listening by the side. Those 2 are only listening in on his lesson. The 3 master teachers stared at one another as their minds were blown once again. There are different types of students under the tutelage of a teacher. There are students who listen in, normal students, and direct disciples. Initially, given how the duo was discussing cultivation methods, the 3 master teachers thought that they were true disciples of Zhong Laosha, and thus, they had been imparted with the purest and most profound theories. However, upon hearing listening in did they realize that they are just the most basic students under his tutelage. If a listener student can learn such profound theories, It would be hard to imagine what his normal students and true disciples will be able to achieve. Indeed, when younger sister Wang Ying first started to learn under Zhong Xian, she was only Jushi realm primary stage. After coming under the personal tutelage of Zhong Laosha, in a short 10 days, her cultivation rose swiftly, and she succeeded in reaching Dantian realm yesterday night. I'm truly envious. Say, why was I so foolish back then? Why was I so obsessed with coming under Lu Laosha's tutelage before? If only I had joined Zhong Laosha earlier, I would have long achieved a breakthrough as well. The two continued to chat, and their tone revealed their envy for the other students. She reached Dantian realm from Jushi realm in 10 short days? Upon hearing the words of the duo, the 3 master teachers felt as though they were struck by a massive hammer on their head. They thought that they were going insane. In Fighter 1 Dan, one gathers spiritual energy and circulate it around his body to nourish and open meridians. Without accomplishing all of these thoroughly, it is impossible for to reach Dantian realm. In other words, there are no shortcuts whatsoever for this realm. Thus, without years of hard work, it is difficult to achieve a breakthrough from this realm. Even for them, without half a year, it is impossible for them to help their students do so. Yet, a breakthrough in 10 days? The 3 master teachers were astonished, unable to believe what they had just heard. If that is true, doesn't that mean that Zhong Xian's ability to teach is superior to theirs? How is that possible? Boom, boom, boom. They were feeling uncertain when the ground below them started to quake. It's Yuan Dao. That fellow is probably knocking against walls again. Let's go and take a look. Wang Dao's words sounded in the air. Soon, their footsteps grew faint as they gradually walked into the distance. Yuan Dao? Isn't that the fellow who scored the worst for the entrance examinations? Zhuangshi couldn't help but ask. On their way here, they had inquired about Zhong Laosha's affairs and found out that he had accepted 5 students. As the student with the worst result during the entrance examination, Yuan Dao was especially conspicuous and, as such, the 3 master teachers had a deep impression of him. Yes, let's go. We'll take a look as well. Liu Ling gestured and the trio followed the sound of the footsteps before them. They are all half-Zhongsha experts. It is impossible them to be discovered by the 2 students. After several dozen meters, they stopped after a corner and a few figures appeared before them. They saw a fatty who was charging furiously toward a wall. Every time he rams against it, the ground trembles vigorously. What incredible defensive ability! With such extraordinary defensive capability, even a Fighter 6 Dan Pishua realm expert would find it hard to break through. Seeing the fatty's actions, the 3 master teachers were once again blown out of their minds. While Wang Dao and Wang Yang's do not have sufficiently discerning eyes and are unable to judge how strong Yuan Dao's defense truly is, but they, as master teachers, are able to tell with a single look. Even for them, they would take quite a bit of effort to break through the fatty's defense. For the student who was the last in the entrance examination to possess such overwhelming defense all of the sudden, the 3 master teachers felt their head unable to cope with the sudden turn of situations. Quick, look over there. Zheng Fei suddenly said. Following the direction where he was pointing, Liu Ling and Zhuangxian saw a 16 to 17-year-old little girl executing a kick toward a wooden pole which was around a bowl thick, as though a superior bow with its bowstring pulled tautly was released. Catcher. The wooden pole broke into 2. What a powerful leg technique. There must be at least 400 kilograms of strength behind her kick. Not only so, her turn, leg raise, strength exertion, and hip twist. All of her movements were seamlessly coordinated as one. This shows that she has at least immersed herself in leg techniques for 7 to 8 years. Otherwise, it is impossible for one to reach such a level. Liu Ling praised. Even though it was just an ordinary kick, it revealed the good foundations the lady possessed. Without years of hard work, it is impossible to reach such a level. Is this Zhong Xian's student as well? But why didn't we hear about him having a female student who is adept in leg techniques when we asked around? Zhuangxian couldn't help but ask. Zhong Laosha only has 5 students, and as such, it wasn't difficult to find out what his students are adept at. However, They had never heard of him having a female student who is adept at leg techniques. Wang Ying, to think that your leg techniques would become so powerful right after your legs recovered. The two young men who were in the classroom previously walked over and complimented her. Wang Ying. She's that Wang Ying whose legs are injured. Liu Ling almost fell to the ground. As the daughter of clan head Wang Hong, Wang Ying's leg injury wasn't any secret. They had heard the news, but if her legs had been injured, how can she exert such powerful strength through them? Furthermore, he had just confidently claimed that the other party must have trained for at least 7 to 8 years to have built up such a solid foundation for her leg skills. Yet, to think that she had been just treated of her injury. The heck? How can someone whose legs were just treated exert such powerful strength that can destroy a wooden pole so thick with a single kick? Why does it feel like a dream? Liu Ling felt a fiery sensation on his face, and that he was on the verge of going berserk. While he found the event embarrassing, the other two master teachers didn't have the leisure to bother about that. They were staring in another direction with widened eyes. Liu Shi. Due to his anxiety, Zheng Fei's voice quivered. What's wrong? Seeing that his two friends weren't going to pester him for his judgmental error, Liu Ling heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he turned over to look at them too. Look over there. Zheng Fei pointed. Puzzled, Liu Ling lifted his head and peered over. The other party was pointing toward a young man. At that moment, he held a spear in his hand and was standing motionless on the spot, resembling a statue. What's wrong? He wasn't sure what the other party was trying to point out. That is a posture which spear users often stand in to feel their spear. Those who love to use spears would often stand in such a position to feel the connection between their body and the spear. Logically, there shouldn't be anything weird about the situation. It's not his actions, it's... Zheng Fei wanted to explain, but before he could finish his words, the spear-carrying young man suddenly moved. There wasn't the slightest hesitation in his movements. As though a dragon rising from the sea, his eyes gleamed with might. In an instant, the tranquil young man seemed to have transformed into another person. It was as if he became an incredibly sharp and taut spear that was capable of even piercing through the heavens. This is... Liu Ling staggered backward. Flabbergasted, his eyes narrowed to the point that they were as thin as needles. Spear intent. Achieving spear intent at such a young age? As a master teacher, it was natural that he knew of spear intent. He had also once seen a master displaying it. However, those who are capable of releasing spear intent are, at a minimum, 40-year-old. The teenager before him exuded a domineering aura along with the movement of his spear, and it is clear that he has comprehended spear intent. Even though it is the most basic of it all, that is still spear intent. How did he do it? Liu Ling felt his entire body turn cold. This should be the student who specializes in using the spear, Zhang Yang. Back then, given how he was rejected by Wang Chao Larosha, he was probably only capable of the fundamentals. Yet, in just 10 days or so, Zhong Larosha had turned him into a spear master capable of releasing spear intent. This is no longer a question of whether he is a capable educator. But, it's a miracle. Lifting his head to look at his old buddies, the two of them, Zhuangxian and Zheng Fei, were also standing in a daze on the spot. The same thought had popped into their minds simultaneously. This Zhong Xian Larosha, who exactly is he? Chapter 196, Eligibility to take the Master Teacher Examination. Rubbing between his eyebrows, Zhong Xian heaved a sigh of relief. After 2 days of hard work, he finally finished dealing with the problems of those who paid the fee previously. At last, he is free from work. Most of the people who visited him inquired him about their cultivation, while a small portion was afflicted with terminal diseases. Using the Library of Heaven's Path and the knowledge he had accumulated from the kingdom's book collection vault, he managed to look into their flaws and solve every problem successfully. It will be the teacher evaluation in 2 days' time. I wonder how much have those brats progressed in their training. Stretching his back lazily, Zhong Xian sneaked out of the mansion. He had been busy with the matters on this end for the past 2 days, and as such, he hasn't had time to return to the academy for a look. If Zhao Ya and the others hadn't followed his instructions, it would be difficult for them to achieve victory over Lu Xun's students. As for Lu Xun and Wang Chao, who had been waiting at the entrance of the mansion, Zhong Xian left them to be. After an entire day of anticipation, the duo also realized that they had thoroughly offended Yang Shi and that it was impossible for them to be accepted as his apprentices. Thus, they could only leave in disappointment. After finding a remote alley, Zhong Xian took off his disguise, reverted to his usual look, and returned to the academy. Master Zhong. Upon reaching the entrance of the academy, he heard a familiar method of address. Turning around to take a look, he saw Huang Yu and Bai Zun walking toward him with large strides. Such a coincidence. We were about to enter the academy to look for you. Since you're here, we'll be able to spare the trouble. Stepping forward, Huang Yu said with a smile. Looking for me? Zhong Xian asked. Didn't these two fellows complete their painting examination already? They had already bought the paintings, so why would they look for me? Well, if they want to buy more, I wouldn't mind painting another for some quick bucks. We have something that we need to trouble you with. Huang Yu spoke in embarrassment. What is it? If it is within my scope of ability, I will try my best to help. Zhong Xian nodded his head. Huang Yu had helped him previously and thus, Zhong Xian didn't think that it was inappropriate for him to turn down her request. However, he made sure to leave some leeway in his words. If she were to really ask for the impossible, Zhong Xian could at least still turn her down. Master Zhong, you should know that the reason why we went to Master Lu Chen's residence a while ago was to obtain the ink daylily canvas. Zhong Xian nodded his head. He was long aware of the matter. It seemed that she was intending to give the painting to someone else. In the end, Zhong Xian managed to create a painting of the 5th level, resulting in the duo demanding his painting instead and causing him to feel awkward. Zhong Xian had felt apologetic to Master Lu Chen for the incident. Actually, the reason why we sought the ink daylily canvas was so as to gift it to someone as a birthday present. The paintings that you gave us are perfect as birthday presents, just that. At this point, Huang Yu hesitated for a moment. I'm afraid that Elder Tian might want to meet its painter after seeing the painting, so I would like to invite you to the birthday banquet as well. Birthday present. Birthday banquet. Zhong Xian immediately understood what was going on. It seems that the reason why Huang Yu was so adamant on obtaining the ink daylily canvas was so that she could gift it to someone else as a birthday present. I am not interested in birthday banquets, so I'll pass. Zhong Xian shook his head. Regardless of whose birthday banquet it was no business of his. He couldn't be bothered to make a trip over to please someone else. Master Zhong, you really should come along. Elder Tian is a good person, even Emperor Shenzui is visiting him as well. Seeing the other party rejecting his request, Bai Zun added on hastily, his face full of anxiety. Emperor Shenzui is going as well? Zhong Xian was perplexed. He had thought that this is an ordinary birthday banquet for nobles and such. If Emperor Shenzui is going as well, then the matter probably isn't as simple as Zhong Xian had imagined it to be. Indeed, not just your majesty, our teacher is going as well. To tell you the truth, the one who invited you to the birthday banquet aren't us but my teacher, Master Teacher Liu Ling. Huang Yu hesitated for a moment before saying, Liu Ling is your teacher? Zhong Xian's eyes widened in shock and bewilderment. He knows of me. Huang Yu is an assistant master teacher, so it wasn't surprising for her to have a master teacher as her teacher. Just that. He is currently in the identity of Zhong Xian, not Yang Shi. So, how is it possible that Liu should know of his identity? Even sending his apprentice to invite him? Can it be that my identity has been revealed? A wary look immediately appeared on Zhong Xian's face. If his identity was exposed, he would be in danger. Putting aside the fact that impersonating a master teacher is a heavy crime, just the fact that he, as an insignificant figure in a remote country who isn't even in his 20s yet, is able to possess such vast knowledge and incredible eye of discernment means that it was likely that he possesses an incredible treasure. They would definitely want to lay their hands on this treasure, and this would put him in a dangerous position. Not just Liu Shi, even Zhuang Shi and Zheng Shi know you as well. Yesterday, when I told them that you are able to produce a painting of the 5th level, They became so excited that they nearly leaped from their seat. Bai Zun said. Even until now, he found what happened yesterday mind-boggling. His teacher, knowing that he and Huang Yu are acquainted with Master Zhong, called the both of them over to question them about him. Upon hearing that young Zhong Laroche had created paintings of the 5th level, their faces flushed red with agitation, as though they were suffering some kind of panic attack. Then, they commanded them authoritatively that they have to bring Zhong Laroche to the birthday banquet tonight by hook or by crook. Master Zhong, this is a good opportunity. I've never seen my teacher getting so interested in someone else. Since you've caught his attention, it is likely that you'll become an assistant master teacher soon. Envy appeared in Huang Yu's eyes. Furthermore, you already have a supporting profession. Along with the identity as an assistant master teacher, you will be eligible to take the master teacher examination immediately. All teachers dream of becoming a master teacher, and gaining the appreciation of a master teacher is the ideal opportunity for them to achieve the goal. Supporting profession? Eligible to take the master teacher examination? What do you mean? Zhong Xian was perplexed. You don't know the requirements to undergo the master teacher examination? Huang Yu stared at him with a peculiar expression. Tianxian Kingdom doesn't have any master teachers, and the prerequisites for the examination are not recorded in any of the books. Furthermore, it hasn't been long since Zhong Xian transcended over. Thus, it isn't surprising for him not to know of it. Not only must a master teacher be capable of offering someone guidance on their cultivation, he should be able to guide those of other professions as well. Thus, on top of vast knowledge on the topic of cultivation, a master teacher also needs to possess a supporting profession. Seeing the puzzled look on the other party's face, Huang Yu explained, using simple words, one needs to be skilled in another profession in order to be eligible to take the 1-star master teacher examination. If one is skilled in 2 professions, one will be eligible to take the 2-star master teacher examination, so on and so forth. Of course, the requirements for the supporting profession grow higher as you proceed higher up the ladder. The more stars you possess, the more knowledgeable you have to be of each supporting profession. If you're just going to take the 1-star master teacher examination, having the profession of a painter is more than enough. That is to say, with your supporting profession of a painter and the identity of an assistant master teacher, you will be eligible to take the 1-star master teacher examination. Of course, it is another matter whether you will be able to pass the examination. But at the very least, you will be eligible for it. On the other hand, even though I am an apprentice master teacher, I am still not qualified to take the examination. At this, Huang Yu smiled bitterly. The reason why there are so few master teachers and why the examination is so hard is because of this. There are countless professions throughout the upper, middle, and lower 9 paths. Every single profession requires one to devote extensive effort to achieve mastery. Taking Master Lu Chen for example, he had immersed his entire life into painting but is only able to produce a painting of the 4th level. From this, one can see the immense difficulty involved. There are some, due to the lack of a supporting profession, who remained as apprentices their entire life, never becoming eligible for the examination. Yet, not only is the person before her capable in teaching and possesses powerful cultivation, he has also reached the level of a grandmaster in painting. If he were to become an assistant master teacher, he would easily meet the prerequisites for the examination. His starting point is so much higher than hers. It is truly a wonder to her how he had managed to achieve so much despite not being much older than her. So that's why. After hearing the explanation, Zhong Xian finally understood why master teachers are so respected. So this is the reason why master teachers are able to offer guidance to people of all professions. In order to be eligible for the examination, one needs to first have a supporting profession. The higher one climbs, the more supporting profession one needs to have. That is why the master teachers possessing multiple stars are extremely formidable and rare. One needs to possess a frightening amount of knowledge to reach their level. It is no wonder why Huang Yu, despite being an assistant master teacher, is devoting her efforts to learning painting and treats Master Lu Chen so respectfully. It seems that she intends to take painting as her supporting profession so as to earn the rights to take on the master teacher examination. I also have a 1-star apothecary emblem. Does this mean that as long as I become an apprentice, I will be eligible to take the master teacher examination? Zhong Xian's eyes lit up. After days of impersonating as a master teacher, he came to understand how fearsome the identity is. With this identity, no matter where he goes, he will be respected. No one will dare to pick a fight with him. In the past, he wouldn't have cared for the identity of a master teacher as he possesses the library of Heaven's Path. However, it is different now. The black aura hidden in his body meant that someone was trying to kill him. However, if he were to gain protection from the identity as a master teacher and the teacher guild, the other party would have to reconsider before laying hands on him. Besides, the sky is the limit. Possessing such an incredible library of Heaven's Path, it would be a waste to limit himself to just Tianxian Kingdom. With venturing out into the world in mind, both cultivation and a respectable identity are important. With the identity of a master teacher to rely on, many things would become so much easier and convenient to accomplish. Drawing a parallel, only an official apothecary is allowed to enter the Apothecary Guild's book collection vault, and they are granted steep discounts when buying pills. Looks like I should hurry up and take the master teacher examination. Zhong Xian made up his mind. With the cheat code that is called Library of Heaven's Path, it would be a waste if he doesn't become a master teacher. A person just has to execute a punch and he will be able to see the person's flaws. Just from this alone, supposed master teachers and experts mean nothing before him. No matter how powerful a person can become, can he surpass the Heaven's Path? No one can conceal anything before the path of heaven. Besides, even the Heaven's Path is flawed, so how can a human possibly be flawless? As long as one possesses flaws, Zhong Xian will be able to tell through the books created by the library. Only as an official master teacher can Zhong Xian execute this ability of his without any worry and rise to the top. Otherwise, given his current identity, gathering sufficient books to create the Heaven's Path divine art would be impossible. Needless to say, wanting to advance swiftly, I have to acknowledge one of them as my teacher. In order to become a master teacher, one has to first become an assistant master teacher. To do so, one has to acknowledge a true master teacher as his teacher and have him guide the way. To acknowledge Liu Ling, Zhuangxian, or Zheng Fei as his teacher. This makes no sense. In the past 2 days, the trio had been often visiting the mansion, revealing their intentions of wanting to acknowledge Yangshe as their teacher from time to time. But because Zhong Xian planned to erase the identity of Yang Xian soon, he hadn't agreed to it. But from the looks of it, it is unlikely for them to give up anytime soon. If he were to acknowledge one of them as his teacher as Zhong Xian, and accept them as disciples as Yang Xian, then the situation would truly be incredulous. That is to say, as Zhong Xian, he would be their student, but as Yang Xian, he would be their master, to become both his own grand student and grandmaster. Furthermore, he mustn't allow both of them to meet, otherwise, his identity will be exposed. The heck? How ridiculous that would be. Briefly thinking of this scenario, Zhong Xian could not help but feel stifled at his heart. Chapter 197. It has been a while since we last met. I can't allow that to happen. Zhong Xian shook his head. If he does so, he might soon suffer from an identity crisis. However, if he doesn't acknowledge one of them as his teacher, he won't be able to become an assistant master teacher and as such, won't be eligible to take the master teacher examination. Just the thought of it made his head hurt. Forget it, I won't think about it for now. However, it is also good to meet the 3 master teachers as Zhong Xian. Firstly, I can get closer to them. Secondly, I can ask them about the poison aura in my body. After a moment of hesitation, Zhong Xian made up his mind. That black aura in his body hasn't become a danger yet, but he still has to get rid of it. If he were to ask them as Yang Xian, it would be unbefitting of his identity as an enlightened expert. Rather, it is more appropriate for him to ask them as Zhong Xian. If Lu Zun and Wang Chao were to know of his thoughts, they would definitely go blind from crying. After failing to acknowledge Yang Xian, they went to visit the 3 master teachers yesterday, only to be kept at their door. Yet, with the 3 master teachers wanting to meet this fellow, he still has to consider twice, furthermore with such reluctance. Will you die if you don't act cool? When does the birthday banquet start? Also, who is Elder Tian, for the three master teacher and Emperor Shenzui to be visiting him personally? Zhong Xian still found the situation peculiar. To have the three master teachers and Emperor Shenzui visit him personally, this Elder Tian is by no means an ordinary figure. However, if he were any formidable figure, Zhong Xian's previous self should have long heard of him. But why does he have no impression of him at all? The birthday banquet is today, so we will make it if we rush over now. Upon hearing the question, Huang Yu immediately realized that he had decided to join them and heaved a sigh of relief. She explained, Elder Tian used to be a teacher at Beiwu Academy, and Liu Shi, Zhuang Shi, and Zheng Shi had all once studied under him. Even though he doesn't specialize in teaching cultivation, he is nevertheless half a teacher to the three of them. Now that he is celebrating his 90th birthday, and the three master teachers happen to be in Tianqian Kingdom, it is only right for them to offer their blessings to him. Even though this Elder Tian is a citizen of Tianqian Kingdom, he was a teacher at Beiwu Academy. Each of the three master teachers had once studied under him, and as such, he could be considered as half a teacher to them. The reason why Liu Shi had Huang Yu head here was actually to have her attend the birthday banquet. In the end, due to Shen Hong's affair, the three master teachers had gathered together here. And if the three master teachers are joining in the celebration, how can Emperor Shenzui stay out of it? As for Beiwu Academy, which Elder Tian had taught in, it is the largest academy in the Beiwu Kingdom. Huang Yu and Bai Zun were previously students there. Having flipped through the books in the kingdom's book collection vault, these simple geographical terrains of the surrounding kingdoms are available to Zhong Xian with just a simple thought. The Beiwu Kingdom is a Tier 2 kingdom near Tianqian Kingdom. The master teachers holding the reins in the country are Liu Ling and Zhuang Xian. Kingdoms can be classified under titled, first tier, second tier and, finally, unranked such as Tianqian Kingdom. The higher tier the kingdom is, the more prosperous it becomes. Naturally, more resources go through their hands, and the standard of their fighters will be higher as well. Even though this Elder Tian doesn't teach others how to rise their cultivation, he can be considered as a teacher. Zhong Xian was perplexed. All of the teachers in Hongtian Academy specialize in raising a student's cultivation. Taking Wang Chao Laroche for example, even though he is a master of spear arts, he is also responsible for guiding his students' cultivation. If one doesn't teach cultivation, how can he be considered a teacher? Beiwu Academy is at a much larger scale compared to Hongtian Academy, and there are many different types of teachers there. Cultivation is only one of the subjects taught there. There are many teachers who specialize in different subjects, such as pill forging, painting, and such. Students can choose to either specialize in one of these occupations or take it as a supporting course to boost their knowledge and temper their mind. Liu Shi and the others, in preparation for the master teacher examination, only came under Elder Tian for a short period of time. As such, they cannot be considered as true students of his. He can only be considered as half a teacher to them. Huang Yu explained patiently, if teachers guide students only on their cultivation, how can the knowledge of apothecaries, blacksmiths, and the other occupations be passed down? After all, the master teachers can't do all the work by themselves. If that were the case, wouldn't master teachers tire themselves to death? Clearly, there are teachers who specialize in different fields. Elder Tian was such a specialized teacher. What does he teach? Understanding the situation, Zhong Xian nodded his head. This is similar to the schools in his previous life. There are teachers who specifically teach physical education, mathematics, physics, English, and such. It is impossible for a teacher to be proficient in all fields, and naturally, they can't teach every single subject. What Elder Tian teaches is the way of tea. He is a tea master. Huang Yu smiled. A tea master? There was an introduction of tea masters in the kingdom's book collection vault. It is an occupation of the lower 9 paths and sounds unflattering. However, it has a huge following in some of the kingdoms. Brewing tea can help one relax his state of mind, helping him to achieve tranquility. Formidable tea masters can even brew tea that is capable of calming another person's state of mind, allowing him to achieve calmness upon consumption. It is something that is useful for one's cultivation, and its effects are in no way inferior to tranquil heart pill. More importantly, the way of tea is much easier than pill forging, smithing, painting, and other occupations. Even though it is difficult to become a true master, as a skill, it is easy to pick up. Most of the sons of prestigious families and nobles in the higher tier kingdoms involve themselves in the art. All right, I'll follow you there. After getting a clear idea of the situation, Zhongxian didn't hesitate further. Since the birthday banquet was going to start soon, he followed behind Huang Yu and Bai Zun and stepped into the carriage. The place where Elder Tian resided was in the suburbs of the kingdom, and it was a significant distance away from Hongtian Academy. It took the carriage nearly 2 hours to reach its destination. Before a vast and luxurious garden, the carriage came to a stop. Upon stepping out of the carriage, the trio was overwhelmed by the crowd before them. Elder Tian was a teacher at Beiwu Academy and had guided master teachers. Just this fact alone attracted countless powerful individuals to offer him their blessings in person. Master Zhong, follow me. Upon alighting from the carriage, Huang Yu led the way to the entrance, displayed a name scroll, and easily entered the residence. As expected of the residence of a person whom the 3 master teachers are paying a visit to, it is massive and filled with countless corridors. It isn't difficult for those here for the first time to lose their way. Liu Shi and the others probably haven't arrived. We should wait for them in the side hall. Huang Yu seems to have been here before, and she navigated around the residence with familiarity. In a short while, they arrived at a vast hall. Even before walking in, they observed that a huge crowd had already gathered in the hall. Xiao Yu, you are finally here. Upon stepping into the hall, a delighted voice called out immediately. Following which, a young man came running up to her in delight. This young man appears to be around 23 to 24, and he is dressed in white. He has a dashing face which Zhongxian can't hope to match up to. Bai Zun's face darkened upon noticing the person, and he quickly stood in front of Huang Yu. Bai Zun, what do you want? A frown formed on young man's forehead. Are you qualified to call her Xiao Yu? I advise you to stay away from her, otherwise, don't blame me for acting impolitely. Bai Zun stared at the other party furiously. Acting impolitely? You speak as though we've never fought before. Have you ever won against me? The young man waved aside Bai Zun's threat and continued, besides, this is my home. As the host, I should give my all to welcome my guest. You wish to interfere in this as well? Aren't you being nosy? Bai Xiao Wangye. You. Bai Zun raised his eyebrows as he prepared to enter a fight. Enough. Seeming to have expected that the two would quarrel, Huang Yu's eyebrows knitted tightly together. Glancing at the two, she said, we're here to offer our blessings to Elder Tian. If you two really must fight, do it after. Rest easy, Xiao Yu. I can't be bothered with a boor like him whose head is only filled with slaughter. After which, the young man chuckled lightly. Xiao Yu, I've just learned a new tea brewing method. Let's go, I will make a pot for you. It'll definitely calm your mind, and after drinking it a few times, you'll surely reach heart of tranquil water quickly. I'll pass. I have to wait for Liu Shi here. Huang Yu remained completely unmoved to the other party's passionate welcome and rejected him flatly. It's all right if you don't want it. I also happen to want to greet Liu Shi, so I'll wait for him here with you then. The young man didn't pay his rejection any heed and simply chuckled nonchalantly. Since the other party was insistent on staying here, Huang Yu wasn't in a good position as a guest to drive her host away as well. Shameless. Bai Zun was outraged, but he no longer spoke of fighting with the other party. From the looks of it, it seems that he isn't a match for the other party. Otherwise, given his fiery temper, he isn't the type to hold himself back due to the occasion. Despite knowing the temper of the young noble, the young man paid him attention. At this moment, the young man suddenly noticed Zhongxian and looked at him with doubtful eyes. Xiao Yu, this is... Oh, allow me to introduce you too. Huang Yu glanced over and spoke. Master Zhong, this is Tian Long, the sole grandson of Elder Tian. Tian Long, this is Zhongxian Laosha from Hongtian Academy. Zhongxian? This name sounds familiar. I seem to have heard of it somewhere. The young man Tian Long frowned as he mused over the name. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he exclaimed, Hongtian Academy, you're the one who is going to compete with Lu Zun Laosha in the teacher evaluation, Zhongxian? The news of the teacher evaluation had spread like wildfire, and it was difficult for anyone to remain unaware. Lu Zun is the most incredible celebrity teacher in Hongtian Academy, and to dare to compete with him in a teacher evaluation, you sure are courageous. I'm impressed. Even though he said so, there wasn't the slightest bit of awe in his expression. Rather, it was filled with contempt. Being the son of Master Lu Chen and a famous star teacher in Tianxian City, Lu Zun possesses tremendous fame. Matched against a nobody like Zhongxian, everyone believes that it would be a completely one-sided match. Seeing the other party behaving in such a manner, Zhongxian shook his head. Yet another arrogant nobody. Tianlong, what do you mean by that? Bai Zun couldn't withstand it any further. I don't mean anything. Just that, humans are valued for knowing their place. To overestimate oneself will only make one's life difficult. Tianlong shook his head. I dare you to say, who is the one who doesn't know his place? Master Zhong just wants to keep a low profile and refuses to flaunt his abilities. Bai Zun bellowed angrily. Even though he had heard of Lu Zun, he wasn't familiar with him. On the contrary, he was completely awed by Zhongxian's prowess. Upon hearing the words of the other party, Bai Zun was enraged. Master? What do you mean by master? Do you think anyone can be addressed by the title of a master so simply? Tianlong sneered. Flinging his hands, he stared down at Bai Zun haughtily. That's the title of someone who has reached an astounding level of mastery in their occupation. Only a person like my grandfather, who has reached the peak in the way of tea, can be qualified to be addressed as a tea master. For a mere 20-year-old teacher at Hongtian Academy to be called a Laosha is already flattering, yet he dares to call himself a master? How naive. Sneering coldly, just as Tianlong was about to continue speaking, he suddenly noticed an elder walking over and shut his mouth hurriedly. Then, he respectfully clasped his hands and welcomed him. Tianlong pays his respect to Master Yuanyu. He is the #1 physician in Tianxian Kingdom, Yuanyu. Toward the greeting of the other party, Master Yuanyu nodded his head impassively. Just as he was about to proceed further in, he suddenly caught sight of Zhongxian. His eyes lit up and he rushed forward to him passionately. Master Zhong, you're here as well. It has been a while since we last met. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.